Hello everybody and welcome to This Nintendo Life, episode 310 for Monday the 1st of December. Here we are, finally, in the winter, the true winter of the year. I am once again joined by Bally. Hello Bally, how's it going?
Hi Nbz, we've started getting the Christmas decorations out. Like it's happening. It's happening.
That's good. Okay, yeah. I don't have any Christmas decorations done here. I usually don't do any here, but yeah, maybe I'll have to start thinking about that when I'm in my own place. And do I want a Christmas tree? I don't know. It's a question. I like Christmas, but is it too much of a hassle to go and buy a Christmas tree and do all that stuff, or just maybe just get a fake one? I don't know, just for the vibes of it all, you know. So many things to consider.
If you're not going to personally benefit from the vibes, then there's probably no point. Or if there's no one around at your flat that would benefit, but I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I would benefit from the vibes, just like passively, just like, I don't know, something about it, the Christmas feeling, I think, gets better propagated if you have something with some shiny lights happening in your vicinity. So, yeah.
Like in true Forza Horizon 4 fashion, like I love seasons. Like as it's one of these things that as I've gotten older, I have just appreciated more and more is seasons. It doesn't matter which season, it's just like the transition of seasons, these things, holidays, like Christmas, like I'm just like here for it. And obviously having kids makes it, it gives Christmas that extra punch, I'll admit. But
yes.
I'm just a fan of seasons, love the transitions. Caroline and I are now like, right, we're gonna have autumn throws and decorations and Christmas.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, we did that for autumn. Dude. It went down really well, especially with Bally Jr. Like he loved it. So then we're going to do something for spring and summer, and then the cycle starts again. That's like our plan.
Yeah. That's the year. That's how you demarcate time. Yeah. And we are going to demarcate time on this episode. Before we do, Bally, you said you had a story to tell me of some kind.
I did have a story. Okay, right. So it's about Bally Jr.
Okay, here we go.
Do you know who Blippi is?
Blippi. Rings a bell. I don't know. I feel like I've heard the name, but I don't know what it is or who it is or where it is.
He is a content creator that has taken over the world. A lot of people don't like Blippi, but basically Bally Jr. watches a lot of YouTube Kids. A lot of parents are very, very against YouTube Kids. Caroline and I are actually very pro YouTube Kids, and we think Bally Jr. uses it in the right way. He's at the point where he has his content creators that he likes. He has his shows that he likes.
Such a fucking weird thing for a 3-year-old to have content creators.
I'm saying the word content creators. He just has he has channels he likes.
He doesn't think of it in that way, right? He's just like, this is a thing I'm watching on an iPad.
The algorithm serves him his 6, 7, 8 shows that he consistently likes. He likes Spider-Man. He likes this show called Bumble Nums. It's basically made by this company called Super Simple Songs. Bally Chew, he's a big fan of like Miss Rachel, so they've got different like algorithms being thrown in their faces, but we also control it.
Has the have the kid kind of like memes and stuff propagated through them yet? Like are they saying 6, 7 to you? Is this a thing that's happening in your household?
Not yet. No, these are like shows and it's fairly curated, and Bally Jr. is also at the point where it'll be like, here's the final 2 hours of Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it's just like it's a silent let's play, and it's
wow.
So
okay.
he is like talking about the final boss of Donkey Kong Bonanza, and he is pumped to play that game at some point. I think Donkey Kong is currently winning the battle of like what are we playing after Kirby. It's between Donkey Kong and Mario, and these videos are like selling him on Donkey Kong. But anyway, Blippi, he basically, I don't know when he started, but it's basically, the idea is he's this kooky guy who looks a bit like a clown, but he's not really a clown, but he also acts a bit like a clown.
Because I feel like clowns are scary, right? Especially for like Bally Jr.
Yeah, he's not scary. He's very friendly, and I like it. I like the content. I think it's good content. I think that what he does is he goes to places. He'll go to like a soft play or a fishing retreat or a science center or a theme park.
He's touching grass out there.
He's going to all these places, and he sort of semi-interviews people like, what are we doing here today? What are we doing? And it's just like, this is a good way of a toddler learning about the world in very kind of zany, weird ways. Blippi became so big that there are now actually multiple actors for Blippi. There's like 2 or 3 actors who play the one Blippi because he can't you can't like separate his time. There's also now a female character called Mika, and there's also 2 Mikas, and Bally Jr.'s cotton on like there's 3 Blippies and 2 Mikas, and they interchange.
He's realized the truth.
And supposedly this is for like, they wanted the ability to go touring around North America while at the same time filming content. That's why there's like multiple Blippies. But anyway, it's a content generation machine. And then it's owned by a much larger conglomerate called like Moonbug, I think. Anyway, they then made an animated show. So it's like an animated show of Blippi. And then there's like a Blippi video game. And I was like, right, so it's just this weird let's play of like someone voicing Blippi and Blippi running about this world. And then I'm like, so I Google it. I'm like, Blippi video game. And it's just like, there is a Blippi area of the video game Roblox. And I was like, oh, here we go.
Oh, no.
Like, I have failed as a parent. Like, Roblox is now in Bally Jr.'s mind. He doesn't know that this game is Roblox. He just thinks this is a Blippi game. And also, this is just a video of a Blippi game, of Roblox. It's not actually access to Roblox. So, now,
here's the important question.
Yes.
Has he asked, can I play the Blippi game?
He's not asked that yet.
Okay. How long do you think it is before he asks, can I play the Blippi game? At which point you're forced to engage with Roblox.
I don't know. Bally Jr. is pretty good at following my lead so far.
Okay.
Like, if I say, I think we should try this game because it's really good, he'll be like, okay. Like, he's pretty game for what I say.
Right, he trusts your taste, I see.
He does, and I've served him well. I mean, Astrobot was just like an absolute showstopper. So, the thing is, I think the Blippi game might actually be more fun to watch than play. And what I mean by that is, like, it's just a very basic world designed, and it's a bit like the Blippi, the regular real life Blippi. You walk around things, and he just commentates on what he sees and finds, and it's almost like a bit of a treasure hunt. It's very simplistic, and Bally Jr. likes it, and he's learning. Like, that's my Caroline and I's bottom basis for all these shows, is that actually our kids are actually pick up a lot of what's talked about in these things, and they are seeing a lot of the world that's not like, when you're 3 years old, your world is very small. Like, you go to nursery, you're at home, you might have the occasion, you could go on day trips, you do these other things, but ultimately your world is still quite small. So I think that, online, being connected online, we are broadly in favor of. It just needs to be regulated. And so I think that this video game, Blippi Roblox is an awful video game, of course, but as like a little thing that he watches that is just Blippi exploring, it's not that bad. Will he ever want to play it? Maybe, but I reckon I can push back hard enough that he won't.
Right. The floodgates will truly open is when he goes to school and every single kid in his class is playing Roblox, and that's when you can't stop it anymore because it becomes a social thing, and that's when it's like, well, all these people are doing it and I want to talk to them while I do it at the same time. And yeah, I think that's the reason it is impossible to stop, because it's just a social thing at that point, right? It's just like a thing everybody does.
I agree. And I won't stop him probably at that point if it is that level of social thing. And game time with Daddy, whether that's Donkey Kong or Astrobot or something in the future, it's just a separate thing. It's just two different things. Yeah. It's not like, yes, technically they're both video games, but they're not actually the same.
No.
Thing, so.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is like, who was it? I can't remember. It was Bacala talking about how, like, playing terrible Roblox games versus like these other games that are actually good, and like how much can a kid tell the difference between those, right? Because ultimately the platforming and stuff in Roblox is just garbage, right? Like, it just feels bad and it's not well tuned, all that sort of stuff. Versus he's now had the experience of one of the best platformers of the last decade as his introduction to how movement and jumping should feel. So I'm just curious, when he gets to a point of like doing an obby, as they call them in Roblox, because the platforming doesn't exist there, just call them obbies, right? So if that gets to a point where he's like, actually I'm going to start realizing that this is not quite as good as the fine wine I've been served previously.
So. And I think Roblox will come at a point where he would have his own gaming device, whether that's an iPad, a Switch, or whatever. So like, there are still a lot of hurdles, and ultimately, like, if he wants to have McDonald's with his friends, that's fine, but he's going to come have a proper steak with Daddy, and that's fine. Like, if that's what it becomes. But this is just the first ever time he has seen Roblox. So I just thought this is an important moment to
it's a good moment
to note down on the podcast.
God.
And whatever Bally Jr. does, I'm sure Bally Chew in like less than 2 years will also be doing. So
100%. Yeah. There's no going back from here, Bally. It's a new world we've entered. Well, let's enter an old world of older video games, because on this episode, we're going to do something that we said we weren't going to do. Basically, let's lay out what's happening. So, next week, or this week, sorry, when the episode comes out, Metroid Prime 4 releases on Thursday the 4th of December. What we realized very quickly after recording last episode was, hey, we probably want to spend like 2 hours talking about Metroid Prime 4. Hey, also this GOTYTDACOTY will probably take 2 hours as well. How about we swap them around and instead of trying to do two things on 1 week that's going to be mega, let's do GOTYTDACOTY this week and then Metroid the week after, 2 weeks after, and then the third show of December will be our final Game of the Year episode. So things slightly swapped around. So we are going to do our Game of the Year Part 1 this week, and then 2 weeks time you'll get our Metroid Prime 4 review, impressions, discussion, whatever you want to call it. And then 2 weeks after that, at the very end of the year, we will have our Game of the Year for Nintendo for everything that came out this year. And because of the way December has worked out, all three of those shows are in December, technically. So, that's the plan right now. We'll figure out recording and all that sort of stuff. I am going back to Scotland, so we may be able to get some stuff done while I'm there. But, we'll keep that on the back burner for now. But, in terms of the community stuff, which we've done before, right? Everyone writing in their picks and everything. So we're going to switch it up a little bit this year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a form, like a Google form, like I have done in the past, for GOTYTDACOTY as well as regular Game of the Year stuff. And so, ideally, everybody listening to this, fill those forms out. And then what we'll do in the final episode of the year is we'll run through both all the interesting picks that you had from GOTYTDACOTY and see if there are any multiple picks in there, which would be interesting, because obviously old games, everyone's playing different stuff, and usually there's not a lot of kind of duplication. And then we'll also do regular Game of the Year, and we'll kind of tot up the numbers and see what the community is compared to our list. And I think that will be a good way to do it and have it all bear out. So have a look in the Discord. We'll be posting it there, and also on Blue Sky. You should get a link to the form, and I'll put those two forms out, and if you could fill those in, that would be great, and then I'll do some maths in the background, and we'll be ready to figure out what the best games of the year are.
Nice.
So that is how it's all gonna work. Bally, do you want to explain what we're doing here on today's show?
I was going to say that there's probably got a decent number of listeners who have probably started listening this year. I don't know whether they're a big chunk, a small chunk. Even if there's just one of you out there, I think it's important to explain what on earth GOTYTDACOTY stands for and what this show is all about. So, GOTYTDACOTY stands for Game of the Year that didn't actually come out this year. So, if you think about the games industry and the podcasts we listen to, I'm often quite envious of their jobs. I think they have it good. They play games, they talk about games, they review games. It sounds exciting, it sounds fun. But the one thing I don't feel envious of them about is that if they don't play a game in the year that it comes out, that game is lost to eternity. It is gone forever. Because so many reviewers have to be on the beat. They have to be playing the latest, greatest games all the time. I think that reviewers feel a real pressure to play the latest hotness. And as a result, if you're constantly trying to chase the latest hotness, it leaves very little time to play games that don't come out that year. So, on this podcast, since it started, we have always played games, both that come out, new games that come out in the year that they do, etc. But we also make an effort to play old games. So this is an opportunity for Nbz and I to have individual top 10 lists of games of the year that didn't actually come out this year. So I've played 10 old games this year. Nbz, how many did you manage to rack up this year?
It's a great question. I can do some maths in the background, but I think somewhere around the 20-something. I'm pretty even in terms of new games and old games.
Wow, nice. But yeah, I think it was 2-3 years ago. There were just a ton of new games that came out, and I tragically hadn't played enough old games, and it felt awful. So I made a point even if you have a really busy year, which I think I have this year, there's been 4 or 5 40-hour games. you got to play 10 games, Bally, and I've managed to reach that 10 games this year, so I'm very proud of that fact. I think maybe that means the 10th and the 9th game might be not the highest of quality, but I think that's just part of the way the cookie crumbles. But yeah, does that all make sense as to what's about to happen, hopefully?
I certainly hope so. I've played 22 old games this year, so I had a decent number to pick from. So the way this works is that we go back and forth from 10 to 1. And we say the game, we talk about it for a little bit, say why it made the list maybe, or whatever we want to say about it, why we like it, and then we get to the end when we have the full list, and then that'll be the top 10 for each of us, and you can find the past lists of these
we do have an archive
on GG. Yes, we have on GG.io. We have that linked on the Discord as well, so if you want to go through and see previous years, what everybody chose, and see Bally's taste change in real time as you watch the colourful Nintendo games turn to grey-brown PlayStation. So it's a very, very fun journey to go on, which is good. So and we'll
that link is a pinned post on the general channel, I believe,
on Discord, correct? Yeah.
So go check that out.
So you can find that there, and I will update that after our final Game of the Year episode is out. So we then have I basically do 3 lists on there, which is our combined TNL GOTY top 10, as well as Bally's 10 GOTYTDACOTY games and my 10 GOTYTDACOTY games, basically. And they're all ordered nicely in the year they came out, so you can scroll through and see each of them, and see what the show chose for its Game of the Year every year, which is fun. Looking forward to seeing what that is for this year. Some good options on the table. But I think, without further ado, let's get into it, Bally.
Right.
Let's start with number 10. Do you want to kick us off? What is your number 10 GOTYTDACOTY for 2025?
My number 10 is Lil Gator Game.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, yeah, this game, I guess, had to be number 10. I mean, it's a good game. It's fun. I think that what it aims to achieve, it does well. And what it aims to achieve is a short, charming, open world adventure. And I think it does that. I think it's very fun to explore there's kind of 3 broad main quests. You go to each point, you do them, there's all these interactions. I like the idea where it's kind of they're role playing in the world, which I think is like a, what do you call it, not flying the wall, but like there's breaking the fourth wall a bit, because there's a lot of we are going to role play in this game, and it does some stuff that is very Breath of the Wild-esque, where you have the very small starting area that then opens up into this much wider kind of mini open world, and I think the reason it's maybe 10th is that it doesn't do much more than that. Like it's charming, it's cute, it's fun for a good few hours, and that's about it. I don't think it really does anything new, and
I am surprised you didn't like this quite as much as I thought you would, just based on like how much you like a short hike and games like this, generally speaking. I think I really enjoyed. So I think this made my GOTYTDACOTY list last year, and I mean, part of that was it was just a very relaxing over the holiday game. I think I finished it like early January, and it's just like kind of sitting around playing it on Steam Deck while people are watching TV type of thing. Just very chill.
It is chill.
Going around and hitting, like you said, the roleplay aspect, and so you are kind of collecting, I guess, confetti is what it is. It's like you're hitting these cardboard cutout enemies, so there's no real danger, but you still have that act of like kind of being Zelda-esque in the way that you're going around using your stick to hit things, and you're collecting hats and things like that. So it just ran very nicely handheld, and I just enjoyed like just kind of sinking into it for an hour a day basically until I finished it. It's very short. It's like 3 hours maybe total. So
I think what short hike has over it is that the core aim of a short hike is very Zelda Breath of the Wild, in the sense that like you are gaining power to climb that mountain, and Gator Game is a lot more flat than that. Like, yes, there's verticality, but the verticality is not really a big deal. And as we've said before, like the final unlock of the game is infinite climbing, but there's nothing to climb to, so it's kind of like a strange unlock.
I think there was a little bit of a weird design issue in that game, in that like I think my first climbing upgrade I found at the top of the highest point on the map. So at that point I was like, well, I've already climbed to the highest point, so why do I need, this upgrade? I guess.
Whereas a
is
short hike definitely
counterintuitive.
locks off things based on your climbing ability, and it layers that game in quite a clever way that I really appreciate. That's why I kind of lean more that
That
way.
makes sense. Yeah, I think Little Gay Game is more story focused as well, in
Yes.
terms of a lot more dialogue between characters and little side quests and things like that. So it has that, I think, more as a priority, whereas Short Hike does have story to it. I think it's quite effective, but it's far lighter in the way it approaches things. And like you said, the focus is more on exploring to find the feathers to then be able to climb higher,
Right,
so that
right.
eventually you have enough to where you can climb to the top of the mountain and get that kind of catharsis of being able to do the journey.
Yeah, and there's that big finale in the Short Hike that I also really appreciated from the top of the mountain. It's great.
Yes, yeah.
What is your number 10, Nbz?
My number 10. So my number 10, I went back and forth with a few different games. We can maybe do honorable mentions after this. I guess you don't have any honorable mentions because you only have 10. But
Look, I'm just proud to play 10, all right? It's great.
yeah, like he did a good job, guys. Pat him on the back. I'll maybe cover those afterwards because there's definitely, I think, there's games I played this year that I think are better than my number 10, but I had a really good journey with my number 10, and it's actually the game I was supposed to talk about last week, but we didn't get time to, and so I kind of did want to talk about it here as well. That is Final Fantasy II, the GBA version of Final Fantasy II. So, obviously, one of my life goals, Bally, as we've mentioned a few times on the show, is I would love to have played every mainline Dragon Quest and every mainline Final Fantasy by the time I die, which I think is a pretty achievable goal, honestly, at this point in time.
You're pretty on top of that for the most part, I feel.
Yeah. I think there's only 2 Dragon Quest games I've yet to play, and the third Dragon Quest game I can't play because it's an MMO that was Japan exclusive. So that's a little bit of a shame. I've played more Dragon Quest than I have Final Fantasy, but there are more Final Fantasy games out there, of course. So it's a harder task to do. But Final Fantasy 2 has always been a game similar to Dragon Quest 2, similar to a lot of 2s, I would say. Zelda 2, Mario 2, like a lot of 2s back in that old era of video games were black sheep, I would say, of their series, their franchise. Unless your name is Mega Man, in which case it's the most iconic one and the best one. But most series were not in that realm. And so this is the GBA version. So I originally played Final Fantasy 1 through the GBA version as well, Dawn of Souls, which I really enjoyed. Final Fantasy 1 is interesting in that it's far more medieval fantasy. It has dragons and elves and dwarves in it, and I think that was the interesting part of going back to that game. Is like it didn't have the identity of what a Final Fantasy was yet, right? It was kind of leaning on these tropes and less so inventing its own stuff, its own kind of lore and characters, Moogles and Chocobos and those types of things, right? Final Fantasy 2, I'd always heard weird things about, partly because its leveling system is odd in that you don't gain XP. You basically gain level based on doing certain things. So the more that you cast a cure spell, the better your cure spell will be, the more effective the magic will be. The more damage you take, the more HP you get. So there are some people who play Final Fantasy 2 by hitting their own party members in the face to level up their own HP and stuff like that, basically. So it's a weird game in its leveling system and how you grind, because oftentimes you are like trying to just redo this move over and over again just to level that move up, which makes it tricky, I would say, when you get a new character and they have no spells and you're like, well, I could just give them all these spells, but all these spells are level 1 and not very effective, so I'm just going to spend a couple of hours just like grinding those to level. So I think there are some drawbacks to it. But what I didn't expect from Final Fantasy 2 is how much story there would be involved with it. Like, it has a setup to its narrative. There are kind of 3 core characters, and they aren't like super well built out, I would say, but they have distinct personalities and identities, and there's always a kind of 4th party member who rotates throughout the game. So you have your 3 core members, and then that 4th party member is either, some monk who comes and joins you, and then some others. There's a dragoon at one point who's the 4th character on your team. There's like a lady thief who's like a pirate, basically. She comes and joins you for a little bit. So you're kind of rotating that 4th character while keeping that kind of core group of 3, which I think is quite nice as a through line for it. And it's very kind of like classic rebellion versus empire storytelling of, you know, you're in this castle and there's the queen and whatever, and the evil emperor is coming to take over, and so he's like destroying towns and stuff. And I was pretty impressed by, like, you know, you go back to towns and they're all like destroyed and blown up and things. Like on the GBA you can see like the sprites all like smoking, and like some of the rubble is like torn to pieces. And so, you know, some towns that you beat to early on you go back to and they're all just, there's no one there, and they're all destroyed because the empire has kind of had that effect. And yeah, there's moments where like your main base is like run over, and so you have to like go to this other camp area to like kind of prepare and take them on. And, you know, you do your classic kind of go to the castle and then, you know, take your airship and like attack from the airship and all that sort of stuff. It's just, I think it's just really well put together from a narrative standpoint for a game of that era that you just wouldn't expect it from. I think it was doing a lot more bold stuff. Far more, I would say, the Dragon Quest was at this time. Because I also played Dragon Quest 3 this year. Finished that, in fact, because I started it last year, the HD 2D remake. And I would say from a storytelling standpoint, Final Fantasy 2 is more competent and complex than Dragon Quest 3 is, generally speaking. Like, just the idea of having that, like, almost Star Wars adjacent, because I guess, like, around the time when Final Fantasy 2 was coming out, Star Wars was still a pretty big deal. It does have that, like, Empire Rebel stuff that I think is quite classic in a way, and I think it works really nicely. But yeah, just looks great. I think the reason I like playing the GBA versions over the new pixel remasters is just I like that aesthetic of the GBA. Also, I've been playing it handheld mainly on train journeys, right, on my kind of emulation handheld, and that has been a good way to do it with save states and everything. I know the new versions do have that, and I will be playing Final Fantasy 3 as part of the pixel remaster, because 3 never got a GBA remaster, basically. So 1 and 2 were in that collection. Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 all got versions on GBA, but 3 never did. So 3 has a version that was DS, so they remade 3 in 3D on DS, actually, and then 3 also is available as part of the pixel remaster stuff. So yeah, I think that's going to be the one I play there, and then the rest I'll probably go back to the GBA, because I just like the way those sprites look, and obviously it's an easy type of game for me to play on train journeys. I think in some ways I feel like Dragon Quest 3 suffered in my mind because I was playing it at home on Steam Deck, and when you're playing a game like that in that environment, you kind of expect more out of it when it's a classic game, versus Final Fantasy 2, where it's like I'm playing it for 30 minutes at a time maximum, and I'm just grinding most of the time, and I'm just getting progress through it. Because the context is different, I think my appreciation is different. Weirdly, if I'd been able to play Dragon Quest 3 on the train and do it over the course of a year, I think I would have come out that experience much fonder of it than being like, oh, I've got to finish this now, and so I spent like 4 hours on a Sunday playing Dragon Quest 3 and not really feeling like it was worth it, versus Final Fantasy 2 that, you know, I've played 30 minutes over the last 6 months or whatever it's been, and that was a much more digestible way to do it, and just I didn't mind the grinding and the classic kind of like issues that some older RPGs run into when you go back to them, because the context just like made it more palatable, I guess. So yeah, it's very cool, and definitely has a worse reputation than I think it deserves in a lot of ways. I think it's got some cool stuff. I think one of the drawbacks of it is the fact that, you know, by the end game, most of what I'm doing is using just the regular attack button, because that's the thing I've done the most in the game, by just the idea of not having that much mana all the time. So, like, my spells are good, but my regular attacks were doing most of the damage for the most part. So, yeah, it kind of, like, there's ways in which you could make it more interesting strategically, but I think, like I said, it falls down in the fact that that rotating fourth party member is always going to come in with nothing, and so if you wanted to use them and build them up, it's kind of not a great idea, because they're going to disappear at some point, and then it's like, well, was that even worth it? So yeah, just leveling up magic spells and the way that it's done, I think is just a little clunky, but aside from that, I very much enjoyed it. So yeah. Do you think you'll ever go back to any other classic Final Fantasies, Bally, aside from 6? Is there any interest that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably do with some fancy ass remakes, to be honest. But
yeah, that's
other
true.
Than that, I
mean, the
pixel
pixel remasters are out there.
Yeah,
right?
I think I just need a bit more time. And yeah, it seems like Square Enix are really focusing on the Dragon Quest series in terms of like HD 2D remakes, and also that full 3D remake of, what was it, 7?
Dragon Quest 7, yes.
So that looks cool.
Totally.
Like, I think I probably need remakes, but otherwise, no, I do want to try. I need to try more early Final Fantasy, and I just need to try a Dragon Quest full stop. So
for sure, yeah.
Those are both things I do intend on doing. I just need more time.
Of course, yeah.
But I will get more time as my boys get older. So
I think Final Fantasy IV is one that I would say is the best of the ones you've not played, because 6 is like really the peak of that era in terms of storytelling and like visuals and music and everything, right? 6 is like the culmination. I think 4 is the one that most people point to as like the next point if you wanted to go back to a pixel Final Fantasy. But
nice.
You still have to play the original Final Fantasy 7 though, so that's still on the list.
I
for
need
sure,
to do that.
So.
Yes.
But anyway, that's Final Fantasy 2. I went a little bit longer on that just because I did want to talk about it and didn't get a chance to last week. So kind of doubling as my what I've been playing as well as part of my list. But
yeah, would you say it was the black sheep of the Final Fantasies?
I don't know. I feel like Final Fantasy is an interesting series in that you could consider many games black sheep because they are so different from each other. Like every Final Fantasy feels so distinct. And I think I love Dragon Quest, I really do, and I've played more Dragon Quest games than Final Fantasy, but I think overall Final Fantasy as a series is stronger because each game has such a distinct identity to it, and each one has a different battle system and setting and just like narrative intention. So yeah, I think it's one of them maybe, but like maybe not the only one. I think there's a lot of interesting swings that series takes, generally speaking. So
talking of black sheep, my number 9 is Sheepy, A Short Adventure.
Not quite a black sheep. I would say a golden goat or whatever.
Goose?
golden goose. Yeah.
This game's great. I think it's like a shorter, more dense Celeste almost. I think it is maybe aspects of its platforming are not quite as slick as Celeste, but I think I could say that probably about every single video game on the planet. But I think for a free game on my Steam Deck earlier this year, this was a lot of fun. Like it's very short, but there's a number of abilities that give you some really cool movement that they then do some pretty cinematic crescendo, like the music building kind of moments in this game, similar to Celeste, that I just think is very epic. That I need more 2D platformers that have more kind of cinematic moments, because it's not really a thing you associate with 2D platformers traditionally, but I feel like there's so many more indies and Metroidvanias that are creating cinematic moments, like the Ori games, for example. Like I think there's just more games that are doing cinematic but also are two-dimensional, which I don't think was the case, say, 10, 15 years ago in the video game space. So
a lot harder to do, I think. It's just like the way that technology has come on now is you can do these interesting lighting techniques. I think Sheepy does a great job of that, of like using like modern lighting and visual effects as well as like strong sound. Like the soundtrack is really, really good. So it's like it is able to build like a lot of epic feeling despite just being a side-scrolling 2D game, because it uses like all those elements to kind of shine it a bit brighter. And this game also taught me how to like input like a control system on Steam Deck. I had to like do an alternate thing because it's not optimized for Steam Deck, and I felt very impressed with myself, and I always used like some sort of it said like press the space bar on certain points. I was like, okay, well this is an alternate setting I've got, but anyway, I did that successfully and it managed to work it out. So yeah, very proud of myself for that. This is number 9, Sheepy, A Short Adventure. It's free. Go check it out on Steam. Yeah, I hope that this gets brought to other places at some point. I also hope they're able to like make a full game after this. I think it has a lot of ideas that it doesn't have time to interrogate, I guess, in terms of like mechanics and stuff, but just because it's over so quickly. So yeah, it'd be nice to see like a full-blown adventure, and definitely feels like a thing that could come to Switch at some point, Switch 2 at the very least. So totally. Yeah, nice. My number 9 is Kirby Triple Deluxe, a good old 3DS game that I definitely enjoyed a lot going back to. I think Triple Deluxe kind of put the nail in the coffin of am I ever going to think a Kirby game is one of the best games Nintendo has ever made? Because I don't know, maybe I have to say that after I played Robobot. If I feel this way after Robobot, then maybe that's the play. But
one of the best games Nintendo has ever made.
No. Basically, what I'm saying is, I don't think we think that Kirby exists in the echelon of being able to be one of the better Nintendo games out there.
No.
I think a lot of people think Forgotten Land is one of the best Switch games, and like count it among
replaying that game with Bally Jr. right now, I can confirm that like the gulf between Astrobot and Forgotten Land is vast in terms of
course,
level design, quality. All I can go on, but yeah, anyway, that's another discussion for another time. But yeah, I agree with your sentiment on Kirby.
What I'm saying is, I think Triple Deluxe is thought of very positively among the fan base, and a lot of people think it's one of the best or better Kirby games. And I would say for the first 3 worlds, I was of that opinion. Hey, guess what? This is a similar thing for every Kirby game. The first 3 worlds of the Kirby game may be really fantastic, one of the best Nintendo things. And then, you get to the end, and it's like, oh, let's just recycle everything that we've ever done as part of this game, and Triple Deluxe is not bereft of that curse. I think it suffers the same fate as many Kirby games do. Again, Robobot is the one that people really go to bat for, I would say, in terms of like what is everyone's favorite Kirby game. I'd say that's up there in terms of the top tier. So I will play Robobot at some point, and I hope that one is even better, which a lot of people have said it is. But yeah, Triple Deluxe I thought was great from a like. It was just great going back to the 3DS. Every time I go back to the 3DS and I have a game that is really 3D focused, it just snaps me back into like, man, people who turned off 3D were stupid. It's just my overriding opinion. They didn't understand how much better it made games look, because it just makes games look great, and I really, really enjoyed going back to it. It did take a lot of adjusting of my eyes. I feel like maybe I'm just older or my eyes are just worse, but like also because I'm using a 3DS, the new 3DS, I think they had a more powerful 3D effect, so I wasn't maxing it out most of the time. Also, I'm playing in bed at night, and so turning that brightness down, I needed to do quite a bit, because otherwise it just like blazed my eyes out. But I just really thought it brought such a fun dimensionality to it, and obviously it has the kind of foreground background stuff going on, which was very classic early 3DS design. Is like the planes of action, and having the 3D make sense is super nice. So I think overall it feels good to play, and has some really cool ideas in there. It's like I think the main kind of like gimmick of it is you become giant mega earth destroying Kirby, and you can just suck up everything. Actually, you don't get big, you just become basically invincible, and you can suck everything on the screen, like giant pieces of wood and everything, and Kirby just eats them just without any problem. And it's all great. He is the most powerful being, as Sakurai has made him, as we all know. I think it's a good one to go back to. Is number 9 on my GOTY list for a reason. I think had it not had that kind of repetition in the back half, I could have seen this going quite a lot higher, because I did really enjoy the first few hours of it. I think it's very, very strong. It's just, I think Kirby doesn't know when to stop,
Yeah.
It needs to stop earlier.
Totally agree on like Forgotten Land with that sentiment about it. Just those same ideas keep coming back.
Right.
It's interesting when you're saying inhale. That's like one of Ballard Jr.'s new words that we've learned through Kirby.
Oh, he's learned from playing Kirby.
Yeah,
okay,
inhale, because I'm telling him all the time, inhale.
Right,
I'm playing as Waddle Dee and he's being Kirby, and I'm like, inhale.
Can you not inhale as Waddle Dee?
No. Waddle Dee has a spear, and that's it.
That's it. So you're just throwing spears around? Is that your entire thing?
I'm throwing spears. I'm poking them. I'm just assisting with a bit of damage output. That's my. I'm doing more talking to him, telling him like, you need to go here, you need to jump here.
You're the guard to the king, who is Kirby. So,
I'm trying to work out if it's easier for Waddle Dee to even be there or not, and I think it is, because I can help with enemies and clear the path a bit. But I can talk about this another time. But yeah, there's some frustrations to Waddle Dee co-op on Kirby Forgotten Land, but
yeah. All right. Well, yeah, there you go. That is Kirby Triple Deluxe. My number 9, Bally. What is your number 8?
My number 8 is Loddlenaut.
Oh, nice.
I really enjoyed this game. It's a cleaning, open world-ish game. You got these zones you got to clean up, and there's these little Loddles who are kind of like axolotls a little bit, but they're kind of like fictional made up things for this game, and because it's just like a foreign planet that you're exploring and cleaning up, and there's a really nice progression to this game. I think that as you gain more abilities, there's like a massive vacuum that sucks up like particulate matter, like plastic, in the water itself, which is very satisfying. And then there's a full-on like thing that cleans, it kind of buffers. It's like a bike that you ride that buffers the surface. Like that's very satisfying. And then you've got like a percentage that ticks up and up and up as you gradually get to like 100% clean for each zone, and then you progress. And there's like a lot of kind of simmy kind of thing that you can upgrade them and bollocks like that.
Yeah, it's like a Tamagotchi, almost pet management kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like I'm not here. I'm here to clean. Like I don't want to mess about with these levels. So yeah, I just think it's a really satisfying, nice game to play. Like I'm appreciating more and more just simple games that
yes.
I'm not even going to listen to a podcast. I'm just going to be in this world. We're going to clean. Going to zone out entirely, and I really appreciated that about this game. It's simple, but it's effective, and it's got a very satisfying little skill tree in there. That's Loddle Naught. Would definitely recommend.
Yeah, that's a very, very cool little game. You might hear about it again. We'll see.
Oh.
So my number 8 is The Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, which is a very interesting game I talked about earlier this year. This is published by Devolver. It's a game where it's kind of a visual novel mixed with like a tarot card kind of like art thing. You are essentially this witch who has been banished from her kind of sisterhood. She is in space. It's the whole lore to this game of like there are people who live on Earth who then just get taken away and become witches in space essentially. It's very cool. I think the lore is really well done, and like there's different people who are witches who are also aliens from like different planets and everything. But she was in this coven and she was banished for a certain reason, and you are kind of just in this small house on this tiny little planet in the middle of nowhere. At the start of the game is this weird kind of demonic creature comes to you and makes a bargain with you, makes a deal, and he's like, okay, do this and this and this, and he basically puts in stone things that will happen in your future at the beginning of the game, which is a very interesting premise because it makes you choose things you don't know you're going to care about yet. And over the course of the game, you meet characters, you start caring about characters, and then you realize the inevitability of the choices that you made at the start are going to impact the relationships that you've now built, which I think is just very cool from a premise standpoint. It goes through a lot of different phases. Like it starts, trying to talk to people and figure out what's happening, and it then devolves into like a political situation in which you are taking part in an election essentially, and trying to convince various factions to be on your side, and people come to your house and convince you, and you try and convince other people, and yeah, it's a whole interesting thing. And all the while you're also making these tarot cards by using art to make them, and then infusing them with like different elements. So you have different kind of like magic sources, and each tarot card then has outcomes when you play them with people. So people come to get a tarot reading, and your power essentially is that whatever your tarot reading is, that outcome will come true essentially. So you set in stone a lot of things that happen in this story as a part of your tarot readings. Really unique game, kind of unlike anything I've played before. Like has those visual novel elements, but the tarot stuff and the way that you build those out also is just super unique. And it's not too long. I think it was like 6-7 hours or so, and very, very well put together. Just really nice character design and pixel art and music as well. I think it's just an excellently put together game, very, very unique. So if you want something that's more on the narrative side, I would definitely give that a go. Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. It's my number 8.
Awesome. My number 7, the game I talked about very recently, is Lego Builder's Journey. I think this is a really cool father-son game. They shoehorned it into like this Lego puzzle setting, which I think is quite fun and cool. And I talked about it at the time, but this game made me feel nostalgic for Lego bricks in like a very tangible way, because there's some really effective sound design on the way that these bricks are built and fall down, and there's emotional moments in this mini story, and like they build, like I said with Sheepy, like these crescendos of like that build of emotion and things. And at its very base level, it's a pretty solid puzzle game that is utilizing Lego bricks and these tiny little dioramas. I think I said at the time, but like I think that using the Steam Deck, just the the control pad just felt very finicky to use. I would have way rather have used like a mouse and keyboard kind of setup for this kind of game. I think it's that kind of, it's just a little bit finicky to move. I'd still recommend it on console. I think that it's totally doable. It just is a little bit fiddly here and there when you're building specific bricks.
Feels either designed for a touch screen or for a mouse, right? I think either way would work.
Yeah. So I mean, I could have used the touchscreen, I guess, on the Steam Deck, but I was kind of like
on handheld,
in the mode of just doing it the way I was already doing it. But yeah, it's cool. I would recommend this game. I think that some of those puzzles are a little bit obtuse, and I had to like just check some guides here and there. But the overall thing of what this game is going for, I think it does very well. It is very, very satisfying to nail some of these puzzles, and I think that it's just the way that it depicts certain things using Lego bricks is really clever. Like, I think that I'd love to see Lego make more and more games that are just a bit more, not the Marvel tie-ins in all these games, like just Lego for the sake of Lego. Like, why is Lego important? Oh, because you can pass on to your children kind of what you've learned and all these things. And I think just like Lego leaning more into that nostalgia like this game does, I think is quite exciting.
Kind of like what they did with the Lego movie to some extent, right? Like the message of that movie and like the way that all kind of comes together at the end of like, oh, is it about, you know, using the instructions, or is it about just the freedom of creativity and all that sort of stuff? So, yeah, I would say, Builder's Journey is definitely leaning on the more emotional side compared to that movie overall, but I think there's some similar sentiment to be shared between them.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Nice. My number 7. So I think this is where our lists become interesting, is that there are games that I didn't put on here that I will say are better games than this. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it comes down to your taste and what you like, and what works for you. Because I think this game, by all accounts, is like, you know, it's fine. Like, it's decent. I think it's well made. It's well put together. But I just had a really good time. My number 7 is Tales of Kenzera Zao. A game that I think is like, you know, it's kind of a middling Metroidvania, but like, I loved it. I really, really had a good time. And I think mainly just because of the movement stuff. Like, I think
but not the story, which is
no, I really don't care. I'm sorry. Like, I know that was the thing that everyone was like, oh, and this is the most emotional part and stuff. You know, it was good. Voice acting was good, well written. I didn't really listen to any of it. I was just like, give me the dash, give me this fast.
We're just talking about like how these 2D games are getting more cinematic, and part of that I would argue is in their storytelling and these kinds of things.
Yes.
And you're just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Let's just do some platforming.
Yeah. Let me just turn this waterfall into ice and then just double jump off of it. You know, that's really what I want to do. No, I think the movement is just really fantastic in this game. I just felt very snappy and fun to move around, and lots of areas that are clearly kind of like a little bit Ori inspired in terms of, you know, stringing things together. Like, there's lots of mini platforming challenge, kind of similar to Lost Crown, actually, Prince of Persia, where, you know, you go into this section and you're like, this is a platforming gauntlet and I'm going to get something at the end of it. So this game took that as well and kind of like ran with it in a similar way of, you know, oh, here's a section where it's just doing platforming stuff. Combat, not great. I found pretty middling, and I turned it down to easy as a result because I just wasn't really enjoying it. But I think it just comes down to like, I just really liked running around the world and getting the new power-ups and just exploring the spaces, and just felt very good. There's lots of Metroidvanias out there that I think a lot of people, you know, kind of, I'm not sure how much I've talked about on this show, but like I generally don't like the Souls style of Metroidvania, which is like Blasphemous or Ender Lilies. Like, I've tried both of those games and I've not really stuck with either of them.
Silk Song, Hollow Knight.
No, come on. This is that's different. That is slightly different. Because I think the fundamental difference is that Hollow Knight and Silk Song are responsive, snappy, very good feeling in the hands, and Ender Lilies and Blasphemous are slower and more sluggish and less responsive, generally speaking, in terms of combat and in terms of movement especially. And you know me, that's the one thing I talk about the most about video games. Give me good movement. And because this game has that and those games don't, like, okay, on a critical level, is Blasphemous better than Tales of Kenzera? Yeah, probably. Do I like Tales of Kenzera more than Blasphemous? You fucking bet I do. Like, I just my priorities are different, right? I have totally different priorities when it comes to Metroidvanias, and this just kind of just fit perfectly. So I really had a good time with it, enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's a good one to check out. If like me, you have the same kind of taste in Metroidvanias. I think that's kind of the key thing here, is like, if you go into Metroidvania, I mean, I guess if you go into Metroidvania for story, you might like it as well, because that is there, but it's it ticked my boxes in particular. So
Awesome.
yeah, a nice game. Glad I played it. Tales of Kenzerazel. There you go. Number 7.
My number 6 is Loco Roco.
So
yeah, playing Astrobot last year, obviously there is a Loco Roco stage in that game, and it made me feel very nostalgic as Loco Roco being the only game that I can ever remember Ali T playing on PSP. I don't remember. Can you remember a single other PSP game Ali T owned?
yes, there was a Star Wars game he had on PSP where he was running around as Darth Maul, I remember at one point, and I don't have any idea what that game was, but I remember it very clearly being in his bedroom looking at the PSP, and you were running around like this mini open world as Darth Maul, I think. And I don't know what game that is.
I mean, that was pretty cool at the time. Like, Darth Maul is just like...
It was pretty sick. It's pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved the Astrobot Loco Roco level. Played it quite recently, actually, with Bally Jr. on his playthrough of Astrobot, and he thought it was awesome, too. So I thought, maybe actually, having played Loco Roco, maybe Loco Roco's a game Bally Jr. could play soonish. So I don't know. But I think Loco Roco holds up really well. It's so refreshing to go back to zany, weird Japanese Sony, and like I love that about
the
it.
Sony that they killed.
The Sony that they killed. Now they're left with Team Asobi and the Gran Turismo studio. I think are the only two Japanese
Polyphony
teams.
Yeah,
they're the only two.
ones, right.
Which sucks. But I really really enjoyed Loco Roco. I think it ages really well in everything apart from its racial stereotypes that it just like has in the game that are just like a bit they're weird. But again, I think that's also culturally linked to Japan and other things. But yeah, I think as a platformer it's unique because it's just so slow. You're talking about like fast snappy movement. Loco Roco is so slow and plodding.
I think that's probably why I've never been able to get into Loco Roco, if I'm honest with you.
You've got to be there for the vibes and for the music and the pace. If you're there for the platforming, you will get frustrated. There are moments where I'm like, I missed that jump. I'm going to rock back slowly and try again. There we go. And it's like there's like a momentum to some of those jumps, and you're going to go down and up the hill, and then the points at which your dude breaks up into like a million little pieces and comes back together. All these things where you're essentially like water flowing around the level is you're not really interacting with the level much. It's just very satisfying to watch the animations happen. And I think I said it at the time, but it feels like a very modern indie game. It doesn't feel like, this is actually a game from 2007 or something. Like this feels a lot more modern than that. And it's definitely worth checking out. I think everyone should give it a go. It's got a lot of Nintendo energy for sure. And it makes you realize when we say Nintendo, sometimes part of us just means Japanese because there's just a lot in there. So yeah, definitely would recommend Loco Roco. I kind of want to play the other ones now, actually. Like I think it's a good shout.
Yeah, Loco Roco 2 there was, I think, on PSP,
yeah.
I want to say. I don't know how many more there were, and if there was a remaster, I want to say, as well. I think they put out...
Yeah, I think this one got remastered on PS4, I want to say.
Yes. So, yeah, they are kind of trying to bring back some of those old... Like, a Patapom came back as well. They did that, and there's, I think... Everybody's Golf has a new game coming out soon. There's lots of kind of like that era of Sony being revived a little bit now, but not by Sony themselves, because I'm pretty sure like maybe it's Bandai Namco who's publishing some of those or something.
I think so,
a little bit odd, but yeah, very very strange that's coming to be, because a lot of those are coming to Switch as well, which feels like the cats and dogs. But like we're at a point where fucking Halo is coming to PlayStation, so it's all lunacy at this point in time. No one cares anymore. Great. Okay. I just had a last minute change, by the way.
This always happens. I am not changing my list. I'm convinced I've got the order correct, but here we go.
Well, no, it kind of helped, I think, because you were talking about it, and I was like, oh, yeah, maybe this makes more sense. So I changed. My number 6 is Loddlenaut,
nice.
which I did really enjoy.
I just thought you'd play this game last year for some reason, but you're right.
No, I played it right at the beginning of this year. It was like it was another January game of like I played it in like the first few days of the new year. As you know, Bally, and you clocked me so hard on this shit, which was I like to have my GG look nice for the first 5 games that I put on it with nice key art and cover art. And also, I want to do it as quickly as possible, so I have those 5 slots filled and they're not empty. And you're like, you motherfucker, all you do is you wait until the start of the year and then you play 5 short games quickly so that you can get them on your list. And you called me out so hard on that, and you were correct to do so, because that's exactly what I did. But yeah, Lord was one of those. I played it very early. On another Steam Deck, I think I have this tendency of like December, January period. It's obviously the family around, everything, and people are watching stuff on the telly, and so I'm usually there.
You don't want to watch those Christmas films. You want to sit
no,
there.
But it's nice. It's nice to have it on in the background. You know, it's nice. I like the vibe of like on the sofa playing a game on my Steam Deck while everyone else watches a Christmas movie. You know, like it's nice because like, okay, I can still be there, but I actually want to do something aside from watching fucking, I don't know, some terrible Christmas movie. So,
mate, some of us have got cooking to do. We've got to cook for everyone.
You know, I do a bit of that.
Okay,
on the side,
that's good.
But yeah, you know. Anyway, Law was one of those, and it was just a very lovely experience. I think it's just like you said, satisfying in terms of, you know, I've fallen deep into the cleaning genre this year, especially. There's quite a few cleaning games out there, and Law is a great little addition to that pile of just clear up the ocean. I just like that there's a real satisfaction to your little bubbly gun just like pinging all the bits of dirt on coral, you know, like you hold it down and it just like do, like almost laser beams them off, right? And just doing that and then rescuing the little guys, getting them back to your base. I did a little bit more of the raising of the lolls than you did, but I wasn't really something I cared too much about. I think it's a game where if you do care about that, you can actually go quite deep with it in terms of like breeding them together and like making the different versions, because they have like a whole like pedia thing, Wikipedia, whatever you want to call it, Lodalpedia, which basically shows which ones you have and which ones you haven't, and which, you know, ones you could breed together to make different ones. So for people who want to do that, I think you can get a lot more out of this game. But I just really enjoyed exploring around the ocean and kind of like, you do kind of set things up in terms of when you get to a bigger area of, okay, well, I need to have like you know, those bubble refreshers, because your air meter goes down over time, and so you need to make sure, you know, if you're away from base, you need to have a way to refill that pretty consistently. So yeah, that's a thing that you kind of like, you almost set up these mini bases when you go to an area. But the nice thing is that there's a lot of places where you can find little bubbles coming out of the environment, and oftentimes I would just use those to kind of just sustain myself and stay in an area instead of having to like spend the resources to go back and change stuff. But a satisfying upgrade loot as well, of like getting bottles and plastics and then putting them into the little bins. You like you throw them out there and they all get sucked in very satisfyingly, and then you get like resources for doing that, and you can use that to upgrade the power of your laser beam gun, as well as like the power of your other like things that clean up the ocean. There's the one that gets all the microplastics as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that one.
all those ones. So yeah, I think it has a good ramp. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's kind of over exactly when you want it to be, and just looks really nice, like a very, very nice art style. Very, very vibrant. So yeah, Law is my number 6. There you go.
My number 5 is a game I have just beaten. Another NBZ recommendation. That is On Guard.
Hell yeah. I was very interested in where this was going to land on your list.
I really enjoyed this game. It is a sword fighting, combat focused game. Third person. All you're doing is combat, barring a tiny bit of platforming, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that stuff where you're like jumping on like ropes and things and kind of crossing gaps and that type of stuff.
Yeah, and it's very Spanish, but then there's also like some other European nationalities in there. There's like the French. There's a few French characters that are like villains, which is very hilarious. It's very camp. It's very over the top.
Very hammy voice acting.
Very hammy. The story is just like, oh, we've got to get the Archduke because he's so greedy and wants to take everyone's money, and we got to take him and redistribute the wealth kind of thing argument, which is fun. And then the Duke is like this very hammy, I am evil and I'm going to take over the world. It's fine. It works for what this game's going for, because it's cartoony, and it being cartoony I think is so key, because what this game above anything is in its combat is it's scrappy. Like, and I love that about it. Like, so if you think about other combat focused games that I've played, when I think of like a Spider-Man, a God of War, a Kena Bridge of Spirits, or something like that, all those games are so visually stunning that they use so much energy of your PlayStation or whatever you're playing it on to render a nice looking Kratos or some nice looking villains or the scenery, that the idea of shoving the level full of boxes and other aspects of the environment that are interactable that you can chuck around and throw and stop enemies in their tracks and other ways of slowing down enemies, those games wouldn't be able to handle that because they're so focused on the game looking good. Like, I always think that I'd love the ability to just, because you have the ability in On Guard to just shove a box with your foot. Like, why can't you do that in The Last of Us? Like, surely, because it would be so much more realistic if you're fighting for your life. And I don't think On Guard's realistic because it's very hammy and over the top, but say you're in a zombie apocalypse and you're fighting for your life, you're going to be shoving boxes and everything you can in front of those zombies, but
just grabbing the environment to use it to your advantage, essentially.
You can't, because the game looks so stunning that they don't want to render out a million boxes. Whereas I think what I love about On Guard is its cartoon aesthetic means they don't care how many boxes they can shove into that world. They're going to do everything they can, and
it's a different priority for combat as well, right? Like, totally. The entire combat system is built around like distraction and improvisation, essentially.
Breaking up mobs.
Yeah, so you have to like grab things from a table and throw it at a guy, try and get a bucket on someone's head, try and throw someone into like a stack of javelins or whatever. Yeah. Like, the environment is the combat sandbox, and they have really built it as a combat sandbox first and foremost. And so all those games would really have to change their priorities from a combat standpoint in order to accomplish that. And like you said, their priority is more on being cinematic and visual, and so physics and interaction in that way is not where the money goes towards. Whereas a smaller game like this can be like, well, okay, we can't compete on that level, but we can make our combat so much more refreshing and interesting and engaging.
Totally. And like pulling down a chandelier on top of people, and even separate to all the scrappy aspects of it and splitting up the parties and taking them on, there's like a really nice counter system, and then there's like stronger enemies that you mess up one aspect of the counter and their bar kind of resets to full. So it's really important that, like, right, if you're gonna let's try and save those enemies till last, because you want to kind of take out everyone else in the environment so you can just focus combat on them. And then there's sub-harder levels late on where it's like, right, there's 3 of those hard enemies and you're just in this room with very limited items to chuck at them. And it's like, right, you have to nail every single one, because the second you try and start taking on 2 versus 1 of that high-ranked enemy, you're so screwed, because it is just impossible to double counter. Like, and I'm sure you can do it in part, but it's very hard to like double counter these like tougher enemies. But I kept the difficulty on medium. I was tempted to drop at points. I found it very challenging at certain points.
Right.
But it was a good challenging level, and I felt very satisfied where some of the tougher bosses, and the bosses are kind of like a harder enemy that's in and amongst a mob of like enemies, and you're running around throwing bombs into fire pits to make it explode, knock them all down, shove them. Oh, there's the boss, let's get some damage on him. Oh wait, now that there's another wave of enemies, and like it's a real kind of like mishmash of, I just need to focus on the boss right now and just try and forget about all these other enemies in my way. I just need to get them out the way. And yeah, I died a lot, but like I said, it was very satisfying. And yeah, there's like 4 long levels. First level's kind of like harbor, town, and then by the end you're like on this like tropical island, and then hoarding treasure, that kind of thing. Like it's really well done. This game was a lot more in depth than I thought it would be when you recommended it, Nbz. I thought it would be a lot shorter and simpler, and it's not at all. It's really engaging, and if you like any of these combat games I've mentioned or anything of that kind of sort, I would really recommend this game. It's really fun. I think that the ability to just shove anything you can find in the face of like enemies just to break them up is so good. I think the game does a really good job of saying like, yeah, you can try and take on all the enemies at once, but you will struggle. It's like that original criticism of like the Batman Arkham games was,
yes,
oh yeah, you can take on 8 enemies all standing around you because only one of them is actually engaging with you at any one time, and there's always 3 guys like standing there ready to fight. This game doesn't hold back at all. Like if there's 3 enemies around you, they are all going to attack at the same time. So that's why the game emphasizes you need to break them up. You need to shove boxes in their face, get a bottle of wine smashed across the head, throw the bottle on top, the vase on top of their head, like you were saying, Nbz. Like I think it's really clever stuff, and I think it's only on PC as things stand.
It's a real shame it's only on PC. Yeah. I feel like it should be on consoles.
Games like this are the perfect reason why I think it's great having your Steam Deck. It's like there's just a bunch of awesome games that just aren't quite getting to console anytime soon.
And it'll be even better next year when you can buy a Steam machine and you can run it even smoother on your TV and it look even better.
Yeah, so. I turned down loads of the effects in order to run this game at basically 50 frames per second. That's what, like, it burned through the battery on my Steam Deck, but it still ran really well, even on all the tougher levels with loads of enemies and that kind of thing.
That's good.
Nice. It was nice. It worked well.
Yeah, great boss fights as well. I really enjoyed those. The kind of different sequences you have with all of those was it's a good challenge. And yeah, I think this game definitely more challenging than I expected when I played it. But I really enjoyed that and kind of relished it and was like, oh, this is great. Like it forces you to learn the combat system. I think that's the sign of a great game, is like it really makes you engage with every element of it, as opposed to like, feeling like you could cheese it the whole time, and certainly not the case with this game.
No, sure. Definitely.
This in fact was my number 5 last year on my GOTY.
Wow.
So yeah,
I swear I didn't look.
So no, but it's very interesting. We both have kind of similar feeling about it.
Totally.
Little Gator Game was my number 8 last year, so we're not too far off. Okay. We had there's a bit of crossover from my last year list influencing your this year list, I guess, to some degree, which is nice. So my number 5 is a DLC. Actually, it's not a full game, but one that is pretty substantial. It is Splatoon 3 Side Order, the roguelike DLC for Splatoon 3. I thought this was really, really great. I kind of, was in a bit of a Splatoon mood when, Switch 2 was coming out and there wasn't too much to play on it. And I was seeing like, oh, there's going to be an upgrade for Splatoon 3. This is a perfect opportunity for me to go back and play that DLC and see what everybody's talking about, because it got pretty good reviews, I think, and people were very hot on it. And I think as this show has gone on, you go back to 2014 and you'll be like, man, Nbz hates roguelikes. He only has played one and he thinks they're bad. And now we're here, however many years later, and
in a land of Hades 2. All these games.
We're in a land of so many I'm all I play is roguelikes now, basically. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do a roguelike Splatoon kind of thing. And I think it's really well put together. I think, there's limits to it in terms of number of arenas you have and number of different power-ups. And, there are certain weapons that just feel extremely challenging to do well with, just because there's a bit of a horde mentality to the way it works, where you jump into a map and it's like, right, kill all these things or blow up all these things, and you're constantly going to have enemies chasing you. And if you don't have good crowd control, I found that it was very, very challenging, which is why kind of the more basic guns, the pistols, the ones that do the most spread damage and also enemy damage, were the ones that felt better suited to it. I tried it with the bow and arrow one and I was like, Jesus, this is fucking hard, because there's just so many enemies that trying to make it all work is quite challenging. Same with snipers and stuff like that. It's a lot more difficult. But I played it with quite a few different weapons. I think it took me 7 or 8 runs to get to the end, and that final boss is really challenging. I definitely died on it a couple of times before I managed to finally do it. But yeah, really, really cool. The ending is very epic as well, the kind of the visuals and the set piece and all of it is just holy shit, they really, when they pull out the stops for Splatoon, they really go for it. The ending of Splatoon 3's final boss stuff is pretty wild. Yeah, I don't know. It's same with a lot of Kirby stuff as well. I feel like Nintendo suddenly just go full Cthulhu and space crazy when it comes to some of their games of here's just a giant thing happening in the sky and everything's popping off. And yeah, I have a lot of screenshots of the end of the Side Order DLC as a result of just all the fun stuff that goes on there. But yeah, it has a good progression. You're able to take currency back to the elevator and you give it to someone, and then they give you more health and more lives and all these types of things so that you can survive longer. There are a couple of bosses in there that I didn't love in terms of the way that you kill them and how easy it is to do so, but I think overall as a package, as a as a take on a roguelike thing using the Splatoon mechanics. I think it's really, really great and quite unique, I think, compared to, Splatoon 2's DLC was basically more levels, and I think everyone seems to like those quite a lot. So that might be something I would like to go back to at some point, but I don't know. Splatoon 3 is really, for me, in terms of single-player content, I think far and away the best of the series, because Splatoon 1 didn't really have anything. So, like, I think my favorite multiplayer experience is still Splatoon 1, just because how fresh it was and how unique and new it all felt, and how much I played of it.
We were very into it.
Yeah, and I think overall it still has the best maps in the series, I want to say. Like, I just thought those maps were so good in Splatoon 1. Splatoon 2 for me is my least favorite, and 3 is just like, has the best single player, has this really fantastic unique DLC, and ultimately refines the multiplayer in a lot of ways, as well as having salmon run and everything. I think, it's one of those franchises where really everything builds on top of each other, to the point where 3 kind of is the ultimate, I think, version of what this wanted to be in its first iteration, which is why I'm very interested to see if they do a Splatoon 4, what can they do to differentiate it? Because I think these have all been quite similar. It's just like refining over time to make them better and better. So I'm sure we'll see soon. We actually have a spin-off first. We'll have Splatoon Raiders, to see what that is, which I hope is quite unique and interesting. So I think that might be 2026. So looking forward to seeing more about it. But for now, Splatoon 3 Side Order, that's my number 5. And there you go.
My number 4 is Gumbrella.
Oh, wow, okay.
Doinksoft, published by Devolver. This is a gritty noir that is just a weird world, and there's a lot of blood and weird bosses and enemies, and it's great. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the fundamental shooting and platforming of the Gumbrella is a little bit tricky to get used to, but once you're in there, it's very satisfying. I think it's cool to play. I guess it technically is a Metroidvania, but it's a very, very, very linear one, and there's different locations to go to that you're then coming back to occasionally, and then there's like mini side quests and things to help upgrade your health and that kind of thing. And then I think the bosses are some of the highlights of this game. Like, it's very cool, and it's just it just feels a bit unique. I think I said at the time, like, it's kind of paced a bit like Katana Zero, where I like a fairly story-heavy game, but is still action-based and short, and the pacing between action and more story is kind of balanced. And I love that about it, because there's lots of Metroidvanias that have decent stories, but the story is very side to the Metroidvania part of it, and that's fine, and that works for those types of games. But I think this is doing something a bit more linear, a bit more focused, and I really, really like that about it. And it's got some gorgeous pixel art. It's a very grimy, gritty, brown grey kind of game, but it still looks gorgeous, and I think that it's an intriguing world. I was very taken by Gumbrella, and yeah, it's one of those games that I bought on Switch but played on Switch 2, and it ran absolutely fine on Switch 2. But equally, it's just a fairly simple pixel art kind of game. But
I wonder if it benefited from being on Switch 2, if that like helped in any way. Because I don't know how it ran on the original device, so hard to say.
But it's cool. I would recommend checking out Gumbrella. MZ, are you interested in this game?
Definitely. I'm actually kind of surprised it's higher than On Guard on this list.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you had like a reason for that, or like what stood out about it that made it higher up. I think, when you talked about it, you liked it, but I didn't think you were like as effusive about it, I guess, generally speaking.
Yeah, no, that's probably fair. I don't think it's that far ahead of On Guard, even if it is
they kind of maybe occupy a similar space to some degree.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
That's the 2D bias coming through.
It's definitely my
bias. We like
bias.
our 2D games.
I do side with 2D games. I think both of us are quite like that for the most part. And there's something about Gumbrella that I just thought was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And it tells its story in like kind of 4 hours as well. Very similar length to On Guard, actually. But yeah, it's a solid game. Yeah,
I'm very interested. Of course, I really enjoyed their previous game, fucking
Gato Roboto.
Metroidvania. Gato Roboto, of course, yes, where you're the cat in the robot, and then your morph ball is essentially the cat jumps out of the robot, which is very fun. So, yeah, I think it's a type of game that is getting, I think, less in vogue now, just in terms of a more linear. It's not a Metroidvania, right, Gunbrella? It is like a linear platformer, but it has like save points and stuff with the long levels and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think the demo. I wasn't blown away by the demo, and I think that's kind of why it's taken me a while to get to it, and I haven't yet. But I think you putting it this high probably says quite a bit. So I would like to check it out at some point and give it a good run for its money, because I do like what those guys make, and it looks very nice as well. I think just visually very striking, and just a cool concept overall. Just I think very unique in the way that it's presented. So yeah, it's a good one. Cool. Ready for the RPG rock block, Bally? Because we're fucking getting into it. This was the year where I finished a lot of RPGs that had been on the back burner for a while, and chief among them, the game that I probably played for 18 months straight on the tube, Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals, my number 4. Yeah, probably. I feel like maybe 2 years I was playing Lufia 2. It was a long fucking time. It's a long game. Lufia 2, so the way that I kind of position Lufia 2 is it does feel like the Forgotten King in a way. Like, I definitely see why it is not talked about in the same breath as a Chrono Trigger or an Earthbound or a Final Fantasy VI. And I agree that it probably shouldn't be alongside those in terms of impact and in terms of, like, quality. But it's not too far away. I think part of the thing that brings it down is, like, a lot of the dungeons or the areas have, like, almost a... what do you call it, like a tile kind of like homogeny, where a lot of the dungeons look similar because the tile set is just the same. And when you think about an Earthbound or a Chrono Trigger or a Final Fantasy VI, every area is unique and different and distinct and its own identity and everything. And I think Lufia 2, probably because it had a lower budget, because it was a bit smaller, it wasn't able to do that. It wasn't able to like make each town feel different and each dungeon feel different. But in every other way, I think this game holds up to those greats from a RPG standpoint. Just really interesting in the sense that back then, everything was random battles, and you just ran around a map, and you just, things would just appear, and then you would fight them. And this had enemies on the overworld, but it was a different type of thing where when you move, the enemies move, right? It's like this weird kind of like almost Crypt of the Necrodancer, except without the rhythm part to it, where you are moving and enemies are moving in sync with your movements, and you have to kind of pace out where you're going to hit them, or can you avoid them? Can you use like Zelda style stuff to avoid them? Because this game, almost a precursor to Golden Sun in the way that it uses like Zelda dungeon stuff of you have a hook shot and you have bow and arrow, and then you get fire to that bow and arrow that you can then shoot through grass that goes on fire. Like these dungeons are not just grind fests where you're fighting enemies. You are doing puzzles and you are using the environment to manipulate things in order to progress. It has a very interesting battle system that is, in many ways, kind of archetypical of what you expect from RPGs, but it has the IP system, which is where your weapons build up this meter. The more that you take damage, the more that you get hit, you get this IP kind of juice that's built up, and you then have, each weapon has like an associated ability with it that you can only use by spending the IP points, as opposed to MP, which is your regular magic, and HP, of course, your health. So it like adds a new dimension to combat in that way. And I think just like narratively interesting, like it's the classic like localization that doesn't make a lot of sense because it was probably poorly translated, but some very funny moments. There's so many times on the train when I was playing it and I just got my phone out just to take pictures of the screen, just because the way that something was phrased or like the way it was put together. I have a lot of good things to say about Lufia 2, and I think it really is a strong candidate of that kind of next level of RPGs, down from all of the kind of the greats of the Super Nintendo. And yeah, it shouldn't be as forgotten as it is. I think this is a game that could really do with a nice remake, like an HD 2D remake. I think would do wonders for Lufia 2. Help it with that identity issue in terms of all the tiling looking quite similar and all the towns looking quite similar. I think you'd have something pretty special on your hands, honestly. So one that they should go back to the archives and pull out.
I feel like a ton of stuff from that era has been remade or is in the process of being remade by a bunch of companies to bring it on like Nintendo Switch. So there's been a handful of directs where it's like, well, there's another remake, there's another remaster.
Right.
Like I'm surprised it's not been caught up in that.
So many RPGs, right? Like all the Mana games. We've had, I think, Lunar, Grandia, like
collections and things. Like it's just
tons.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, no Lufia. I actually so after finishing Final Fantasy 2, the next game I started was there's a Lufia game on GBA. So I was like, right, let's try that. Let's give that a go. So that's my current train RPG is the GBA Lufia game, which name I cannot currently remember, but I will do the next time I play it. So
Nice.
anyway, yes, my train RPG thing continues. I'm just this is how I get through these old games. It's actually like I've really enjoyed this as part of my like gaming routine of like I literally only play it in the half an hour I have on the tube, and that's it. And eventually I get through these games, and I think it's a really good way to experience them. So yeah, it's been good year for that. All right, we're getting into the big ones now. Top 3, Bally. What is your number 3?
Number 3 is my game trade game. Professor Layton and the Curious Village, because of course I actually played my game trade game in time.
Oh my god! Look,
GOTY list.
I've not the year still. We still have a month of the year left, all right?
Even though you've played like double the number of games as me, I'm sure you just couldn't find the time. But
so I was waiting all year for Cult of the Lamb to go on less than 50%, and it hasn't. So now in the winter sale, I'll buy it reluctantly for 50%.
Professor Layton, I think what you've done a great job with a lot of your game trade picks from Nbz is just, this is a great game that is nothing like Bally has ever played before, and it's a game I really liked, and he should play it. And I think you've done that on Danganronpa and Professor Layton, but I was going to say Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright.
They all kind of share. I mean, they're all kind of in the visual novel realm to some degree, right?
They're all visual novel-y, adventure-y kind of. Yeah, totally. But then Professor Layton just goes whole hog on its whole puzzle thing. And when I say puzzles, it's like very traditional puzzles that are
back of a newspaper
riddles,
type of puzzle.
Back of a newspaper. And then also inputting like things that would have been physical puzzle toys for like us growing up, like whether it's, I remember having like a puzzle set, and it was like grid-locked cars, and then you'd have to get a specific car out the side, and it was physical. Like there were like hundreds of cards that you could copy, and you'd arrange the cars from the card, and then get the car out. And there's a few of that style of puzzle in Professor Layton and the Curious Village, which I thought was just really cool. It's like, wow, they're just taking loads of physical ideas and putting them in this DS game. Like, and like this is the oldest game that I've played this year. Maybe Locoroco's. Is it the same year as Locoroco, maybe 2007-ish? But
that's a good question. I mean, PSP and DS were like around the same time, right, when they were out. So
you know what? I can check my new list of GPay.
What does it say?
What does it say?
What does GPay stand for the uninitiated, Bally?
GPay stands for Games I Played Another Year. So it's basically, it's reverse GOTYTDACOTY. So how do I explain that? I've got a list of years, and I write down every game that I've played that year. That
if you didn't play it in the year,
if I didn't play it in the year. So basically, if you match up a GOTY list year to a GPay year, that will give you two lists that together tell you every single game I've played from the year. For example, 2023.
Right.
But yeah,
are you gonna do Are you gonna make another list that that combines all of them together into one at some point? Is that the final form of this?
Not really. Nah. I mean, maybe if you really want, but I think it's easy enough to just link the two lists. Yeah, maybe.
I think it's handy for like when people are on Twitter and are being like, "What are your 10 favorite games of 2006 or whatever?" And you can go there and be like, "this that I played back then," but also
it really doesn't take long to link to lists, but I hear what you're saying. So according to my GPay list, Locoroco is 2006 and Professor Layton is 2008. So yeah, Locoroco is the oldest from my GOTYTDACOTY for this year.
I mean, this year so far, in terms of your GOTYTDACOTY, definitely leaning a little more old game centric than more modern indies, which tends to be the case, I think.
You think I'm leaning more old games this year?
No, not more, but just like more than you usually have is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've gotten very modern recently for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think Layton was fantastic. I think the story was intriguing. The puzzles alone would have made this a great game, but I think the story and the just walking around this beautifully depicted French town, I think, was really lovely. I think it's a gorgeous game to look at. The art style is fantastic. And I am pumped for the Layton game that's hopefully coming out next year from, who's it, Level 5?
Level 5, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to play more of these games. I'm in. Similar to Danganronpa, similar to Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright. Like, I'm in on these series, and I just need to find the time to play the sequels and keep going with them.
Yeah.
Because you've done some good picks.
Unfortunately, in my opinion, the second game of all three of those are the worst of their trilogies. So
I'm just gonna have to power through all three of them. I'll get there.
Not to say they're bad. None of them are bad at all. I think they're all really good. It's just compared to the first game, I would say they're all a step down for all three of those. But yeah, that's fine. That's just kind of how it goes. And then, I mean, for me personally, at least, the third game for all three is by far the best. Like, Danganronpa V3 is my favorite.
See, that's the carrot to just get me through the second game. There we go.
Yep. Trials and Tribulations is definitely the best of the Ace Attorney, and Layton Unwound Future is the best Layton. So. Do
I play the second game in all three? I trudge through the three of them, and then I have the reward of all three, or do I do 2 and 3?
Yes.
2 and 3. 2 and 3.
No. You have to go through the wall of the twos first. I think, Bally. You have to do the wall of twos, and then you get like the year you play all three of those is like this is going to be the greatest GOTY list of all time. I'm going to say so. That's what you need.
Yeah, hopefully I can get to. I mean, Danganronpa is the one that's the longest. Like, I think that's
those games are quite chunky
long.
in terms of
the second Professor Layton should be like 12 to 15 hours. So
the Layton games are relatively short. I would say they're definitely the shortest of those three.
I'd love to do that next year, hopefully. But yeah, number 3, Professor Layton and the Curious Village.
Wow.
We'll see where Cult of the Lamb can make your list in the future, NPC.
Yes, for next year, I guess it will be pushed over, yes. Well, that's what happened with Metro Prime, because I played it right at the end, so it counted for last year's list, in fact. So. Yeah. So let's go to number 3. My number 3 is Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, the 4th expansion in Final Fantasy XIV land. Nerd. This is the one that everyone talks about. It's the one that everyone's like, this is why it's the greatest MMO ever made. And, you know, like, people were not wrong that it is the best thing. It is by far the best thing I've played in 14 so far in terms of storytelling, in terms of the location and the villain. Like, finally a compelling villain, I'm going to say, in Final Fantasy XIV, because I've not been compelled by...
You've played so much of this game and you never sound glowing about it. You're like, it's nice, it's fine. Yeah, it took me like 60 hours, but you know, it's okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. I think I'll play another 60 hours next year. It's like, what are you doing, man?
I know. No. Here's the thing.
I don't have time to play Cult of the Lamb Valley. I can't. I don't have time.
Here's the thing. Fundamentally, I just like hanging out in MMOs. Like, I think there's a vibe to it. You know, I've played MMOs since quite a young age, and like I've never gone that deep in one. 14 is the deepest I've ever gone in terms of like amount of hours put into it. I think I can tell you based on my Steam account, I am 237 hours into 14. So rookie numbers by all accounts. But I don't know, like I think if I'm honest with you, I think the things that people go on about with 14 and its story, it's actually kind of not why I like MMOs. And I think me playing 14 just doing story stuff is actually probably to my detriment of enjoyment of it, because I actually like just fishing for 6 hours, really, is what I actually like about MMOs. You know, having a podcast on and just doing a fishing side quest is actually what I really want to do. And that I think ultimately the side stuff, like the goofy Hildebrand side quests, are by far my favorite part of 14, because it has big Ace Attorney energy and big just comedy stuff, and it's goofy and fun and irreverent in the way that the best Final Fantasies can be. And there is a self-seriousness to some of the main story that I think is like, it's great, and it's very kind of like people speak with the olden accents a lot of the time and this type of stuff. But it's never really impacted me. I'd say Shadowbringers is the first time it's had a bit more of an impact overall. Like, and that's why it's quite high up my list. It's why it's number 3. Because I think overall the narrative here and the world you're exploring are just so much more interesting. Like, the place you go to is just very unique visually and has a lot of the locations just feel more fun to explore and more interesting. I think just it does the best job of setting stakes and having it segmented in a nice way and having just interesting story points and, like I said, very compelling villain, like really, really compelling. You understand his motivation, you know why he's doing what he's doing, and just really well acted also. So I think all that stuff comes together to create definitely the best experience I've had with the story of a Final Fantasy XIV expansion. But I don't think that Shadowbringers is one of the best RPG things I've played. And I think that's where I stand apart from these 14 people. It's like, I really like it, but I think there is a fervor and I think there's almost a madness to some degree of like people who do play 14. If you get to this point, you have to put a minimum of 200 hours into it, right? So like there's an investment you have.
And we moaned about Rebirth being too long.
You know, sure, but this is different because it's an MMO. MMO pacing is like so different from anything else, right? So, I think it's really, really good, and I very much enjoyed it. And it's number 3 here for a reason. I think it is fantastic. I think it's just overall Final Fantasy 14 people are just kind of lunatics for it, and I'm just not at the level of ever being a lunatic. And I think Shadowbringers proves once and for all I will never be a lunatic for 14 because this is the peak. This is what everyone says is by far the best thing, and they're right. It is by far the best thing, but it doesn't hold a candle to some of my favorite RPGs at the end of the day.
Do you think it's got a lot more years in the tank? Are they going to do a lot more expansions and so? Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. I think so. I mean, it's it's the one thing that's kind of stable in terms of Square Enix's balance sheet, right? Like people pay monthly subscription for 14. It is a money machine and it keeps printing money. And I think at some point they probably do need to do something to reset it so that new people don't feel as intimidated coming in. Because at this point, there's 5, 6? No. Okay, 4. So Shadowbringers is technically the 3rd expansion. It's the 4th story because Realm Reborn is the base Final Fantasy XIV. Then it's Heavensward, then Stormblood, then Shadowbringers. So I've got 2 more that I have to do that are currently out. So Endwalker, which is kind of the conclusion to this story, which some people think is better than Shadowbringers, and some people think is like around the same level. So Endwalker I think is also going to be quite good, so I'm looking forward to that. And then Dawn Trail, which no one likes. Dawn Trail is like a real step down because it's basically like Endwalker is like the end of like the 10-year story of Final Fantasy XIV, and then they all just go to the beach basically in Dawn Trail, and it's kind of like a lot of people don't like Dawn Trail very much, but it's fine. I think I probably will enjoy it just because it'll be lower stakes and more goofy, and I'm actually kind of more here for the goofy at the end of the day, I think. So yeah, very, very good Final Fantasy XIV. My prediction, I think, back when I was playing it was like, one day, Bally, I'm going to come on here on GOTYTDACOTY, and Shadowbringers is going to be my number 1 game of the year without a doubt. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. But it made it quite high. Still very good. So
must be some number quality couple of games to come, I'm guessing.
Oh, there's some good stuff there. There's some good stuff. Okay. But Bally, before we get to my quality couple of games, how we get to your quality couple of games? What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Dredge.
Okay.
Yeah. You've forgotten I played this game, hadn't you?
I did completely. Yeah, because I got to this point and I remembered you played Professor Layton. I was like, what else is there in this top 3? Yeah. So yeah.
Do you remember me talking about a game called Moonglow Bay?
We love Moonglow Bay in this house, apparently.
I loved Moonglow Bay. I loved the loop of fishing and collecting money.
I feel like you might be the biggest Moonglow Bay fan out there, Bally. I don't think anyone else I ever heard talk about this game.
I just vibed with that game. I can confirm that Dredge is a far superior game to Moonglow Bay because I'm getting all that it's scratched of, going to get the fish, coming back. Let's do this, let's do that, make the money. Go to the new area, get the new fish. Love it. Absolutely love it. But this game, on top of that, has an intriguing story. And on top of that, it's got some vibes. It's got so much atmosphere and creepy vibes. And I think what's cool about Dredge is you can play this game in a way where you can push the creepy vibe further if that's what you want. But if you don't want to, you can just try and keep the creepiness to a minimum, and then you'll need to engage with it a bit, but as long as you're doing stuff in daytime, for the most part, there's not too much creepy stuff that goes on in daytime. It's when you go to nighttime, there's like a host of stuff that can happen. And there's reasons why you will want to be about at night versus day and vice versa, but I don't want to spoil the story and stuff. And the story is not quite as engaging perhaps as I'm making out. It's a lot more of a vibes based story, but it's still very intriguing, and I think that I'm so impressed by the way this game loops its gaming loop, the world, the story, and the vibes. Like, I think it's just, I don't think it does any one of these things unbelievably well, but the combination of them is just very powerful. Like, I think it's really satisfying. And it's got that nice steady growth of, when you start the game, the world feels humongous, and you are like, oh my god, it's so intimidating. And by the end of the game, your boat can move so fast and collect so much stuff that the world actually feels very, very small. And I think that's
they're kind of conquering the space feeling.
Exactly. And I think lots of video games do this, but to make such an intimidating world feel so small by the end is actually very cool. Like, I think this game is just, you really just have to play it. I think it does so many cool things that Moonglow Bay did, but just so much better. And then,
would you call Dredge cozy in a way?
It's horror cozy, yeah. It's
Okay.
kind of I in the same way that Nightmare Before Christmas is horror cozy. You know, do you know that film?
Yeah.
I love that film.
Yeah.
It's creepy but cozy. But I'd go as far as to even argue that there's aspects of The Last of Us that are quite cozy. Like, it's a very
that's not fucking that doesn't make any sense, but sure, yeah.
When I say cozy for Last of Us, I mean like it's focus on like nature and beauty and that kind of cozy. Anyway,
yeah, okay,
but
right.
Less cozy than this game for sure. It's just so cool. I think that there's just weird stuff that they trickle in to the beat, to the daily grind, the daily beat of you making money, improving your ship, going further. They're just like, oh, you've just picked up a really like warped fish that looks really creepy. And there's another one, and like, why have I got 3 fish that are this warped, and what's going on? And does that person on that island know about what's going on? And how does that person link to this other person on that other island? So there's also like this very Wind Waker-esque thing going on, where you're going island hopping and working out how the world links up and this kind of thing. And it does all this in the space of like 11, 12 hours. This is not like a really, really long game. It's very cool. Loads of people were hyped about it from, what was it, 2023? I don't think I ever got around
a couple
to
of years
playing
ago.
it in 2024. Finally got around to it at the start of this year. Played it on Steam Deck. Absolutely loved it. And would highly recommend. And I think I've said that about most games on my list, but like, I would highly recommend this one by a factor of 10. Like, it's really good.
I should have seen it coming, because it's the most loopy boy game of all time, right? Like,
it's so loopy boy. It's just such a slick game. Like, Moonglow Bay is really rough around the edges. This game is just slick and refined, and yeah, it's very cool. And also there's a great no-clip documentary about the making of this game, so we'd highly recommend that as well.
I missed that one. I did not see that, so I'll probably wait until I play it to watch that. But
I'm pretty sure you told me about it. So
maybe, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you probably held off watching it until you played it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That tends to be the case with most of those. Is like, I kind of want to play the game first and then go and kind of consume stuff about it afterwards, right? You always have that feeling after you finish a game you really like, that's like, oh, what are people saying about it? What is there that I can watch, that I can kind of continue that feeling with? So it's always a good sign when you come off of a game and you have that feeling. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, says quite a lot about how you feel about Dredge. Great. All right, let's close out the rock block of RPGs, Bally, with my number 2, which is The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, the first chapter, which, of course, got a beautiful 3D remake this year that most people played. I, however, have been playing Trails in the Sky for a couple of years, I think, at this point. This really was the year of me finishing old RPGs that I just hadn't finished, because Dragon Quest 3 as well was a hangover from last year, and Lufia has been going for ages. So,
am I going to finish Witcher 3 and Elden Ring in the same year? Could it be true?
Yeah, that might be the case, you know? Yeah, so this definitely happened for me, where I was like, I need to clear my plate to some of these RPGs, and it was kind of like sped along by the fact that I knew that the remake was coming out, and I was like, oh, maybe I will play the remake this year, but I want to kind of finish this. I ended up not doing that, just because like playing this RPG and then playing the remake of it right after felt just like way too much. I think I will get to it at some point in time when I want to revisit the first Trails in the Sky game, but Trails in the Sky is obviously it's the start of this series that is at this point like 11 games long, and is really like it is the one game series that exists that is a single continuous story across years and years and years of narrative, but it just kind of like has stay stayed consistent for that period of time, right? And has really not really had its breakout moment. I would say Trails in the Sky remake that came out in September was its chance for a breakout, and I think it did pretty well. So I think a lot more people are getting into it as a result of that, because it was just like, how do you start with these games? Where do you start? There are so many series and sub-series. There's the Cold Steel games. There's the Calvard stuff, which is now happening. It's all set in this one world, Bally, and each of the arcs are based in a different continent or a different I guess country is what it is, because it's like one large continent and each of them are different countries. Very political, actually, as a series, like the lore and the world and how the politics interweave, and like the different countries and the wars they've had with each other, and like the kind of like machinations that go on. Very much a core part of the narrative. And I think the original game is such a good slow burn RPG. It is really a story about two kids going on an adventure that is relatively low stakes. That is, hey, you're going to be bracers, and bracers in this world, they're kind of like, they're not the police, they're more like not vigilantes, they're almost like organized vigilantes in a way. They're like people who will go and help you with problems, but they're not part of like the official like enforcement that exists within the world. And, you know, they are basically going from town to town, solving people's problems and having this kind of slow narrative build in the background. And it looks very old. It is, you know, it's a game that came out on the PSP back in the day and like has this kind of isometric, almost ugly look to its characters, but there's something extremely charming about it. It works so well on Steam Deck. You can hold down one of the trigger buttons and it just speeds up everything. So there's like a good way to like get through areas, like running through them very quickly. The combat is kind of a little bit turn-based, a little bit Fire Emblem in the way of like it's a strategy grid that you're moving characters around and trying to reposition stuff, and all the moves are about positionals as well. You have your arts and your crafts, which is a very fun thing. They kind of like take that and turn it into like a system where your arts are your magic, they use your mana, and your crafts are like moves specific to your character that you use from a meter that kind of builds up over time. It's a really well put together combat system, and challenging also, but also like fair in the way that if you fail a fight, you can retry it immediately. There's no like going back to save points, and also it will slightly lower the difficulty. So if you're having trouble on like the final boss, like you have in many RPGs, Bally, if you just keep dying on the final boss, you will just come back each time. The boss will be slightly easier until you eventually are able to beat it, which is just really nice. And for a game that came out so long ago, like instant retries and the ability for like the game to just slightly lower difficulty is just, it feels very modern. As a game that came out so long ago, it still feels very playable and very modern. And the writing is really the star of the show here. The writing is so good and so characterful, and you immediately get a sense of who these people are and what they want to do and what their direction is. And like there is the world feels so living because each NPC you talk to, after almost every story event, no matter how minor it is, you can go back around the town and talk to every NPC, and their dialogue will have changed based on the context of the story, and things they're doing will have changed based on the context of the story. It's kind of mind-blowing, the amount of like care and attention and detail that has been put into the world building and the way that all this stuff comes together. So if you're looking for like a political drama, world building RPG, like this is the thing for you. It really has all that stuff down so well. And I've played it over a long period of time. It's a long game, but really enjoyed it thoroughly. Excellent soundtrack. Again, this is one of the things that marks my favorite RPGs, is how good is the music. Really fantastic score. A lot of songs that are like kind of reminiscent of Xenoblade stuff as well, which is definitely my Achilles heel. But overall, just I really want to continue playing this series. It'll take me a long time to get through it, of course. This unfortunately isn't like Yakuza. Yakuza I burned through in a year just because those games are actually relatively short. Like the first Yakuza took me like 15 hours. You know, it's not that long compared to Trails games. This one I think was like 45 or something for the first one. So look, they're all about this length. It's going to take some time for me to get through, but I will do it. And in the meantime, for people like you, Bally, if you wanted to try it, the remake exists, which is a much prettier, much more modern version of it, that still gets you the same story and characters and everything, but in a much more appealing, let's say, modern package for the gamer who doesn't want to go back.
What year is the remake from?
This year. It came out in September.
Shit. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's out there if you do want to check it out at some point. But I probably will go to the remake eventually. But yeah, I'm playing the second game right now. I'm like 4 or 5 hours into it, and yeah, started it straight after I finished the first, but then obviously got sidetracked by many things. And I will go back to it, of course, and yeah, I'll make that a focus to try and finish that next year. So that's Trails in the Sky, first chapter. I don't think I actually ever talked about it on any of these shows. It's one of those games that I just kind of have slowly played over time, and yeah, very, very strong. I really like it. So, and now I'm a fan of this series going forward, which is great. Always like to discover a new series that you know there's a lot more to come. So, great. All right. Bally,
have we
it's
done
time for number
NBZ?
one.
Have we done
and
it?
I think for
we
the
might have
first
done it.
time,
Since
the first time in 9 years.
9 years.
So 2016, do you remember, Bally, the last time that we had the same number one GOTYTDACOTY?
Was it Earthbound?
That is correct.
Yeah.
It was Earthbound. In 2016, we both had the same number one game, and it has taken 9 more years for us to have the same number one game in our GOTYTDACOTY. It couldn't be anything else,
It couldn't
truly.
be. It had to be.
Bally, do you want to reveal what our joint number one is?
Our joint number one is the warm-up to Silk Song. It is 9 Souls.
9 Souls.
Which, according to my GPay list, came out last year. So
Yes, it did. Yeah.
What a game. What a game.
What a fucking video game. Holy shit, dude. I fucking love 9 Souls.
I think I enjoyed this game a bit more because you were playing it alongside me. I think like going back and forth WhatsApping about certain bosses especially, I think was really fun to just be like...
There was a bit of a competitive edge to it. Of like, oh, I took this long on this one. I'm dying on this guy so many times.
There were some I found easier than you and some you found easier than me, which was kind of wild. I guess that also happened a bit with Silk Song to some extent.
For sure, yeah.
Just the nature of our combat styles and how we go about these things is really interesting. And
yeah, because you can build out your character quite differently in 9 Souls depending on what you have equipped and like what your parry is, right? Like whichever parry type you choose then defines like some of the extra things you can do in combat, which is quite distinct from one another.
And you know, this is a game with 3 parries. They're like boss fights where you have to use all 3 different types of parries at different points. On top of like just trying to get extra hits in and wail on damage, and you know there's there's a level of satisfaction to defeating these bosses that I do personally think is a step up from Silk Song. What I mean by that is that I still feel incredibly proud of myself and memorized everything, and I mirrored, you know, danced with the bosses in Silk Song, but I was still only ever using kind of 3-4 moves, whereas you're doing the same thing in 9 Souls, but when you add in those counters, you're doing 6, 7, 8, 9 moves sometimes. It's wild.
You know the meme of like the brain thing and like the brain getting bigger and whatever, and like the universe expanding and stuff like that. Like Silk Song is like the second to last one on that, and 9 Souls is the final one where it's just like the amount of locked in I was on 9 Souls is hard to understate how focused you have to be playing that game.
Yeah.
Every single move, every moment, there is no room for error. Like we talked about, like it's almost pointless to heal in 9 Souls because like it's almost better to be perfect at the game than try and find a window to heal and break the flow that you have and the state that you have with a boss and what you know it's going to do and when the next move is coming and how you're going to do it, and like the fucking parrying like daggers in the air, swapping direction because you have to be front facing to parry them properly, and like all that stuff just came together in a way that was like the most focused I think I've ever been in any boss fight in any game. It is just pure concentration and willpower, and like you know, you get to like the final boss, Aegon, is one of those where I got to it and I was like, I don't fucking know if I can do this, you know? Like it was just like
I had that feeling at points,
absolutely, like I am fucked here, I don't know if I can do this. And then by the end just like dancing like a fucking god, absolutely annihilate. It's just like insanely good. Just the greatest feeling in the world. It's such a challenging game, but really rewards that level of kind of focus. Tremendous, just absolutely tremendous. And also just like visually stunning as well.
Yeah.
Like such a distinct art style and world, and I did all the side stuff, and I got it to the point where I could have done the true ending if I wanted. I didn't end up doing it because I was just like, oh my god, I'm so exhausted now. I'm just like, I don't think I could do it. But like so many interesting things that it does. I think it is weaker overall as a Metroidvania. I think we discussed this of like, it's the first half is more Metroidvania-esque, and I did get quite lost in it, and you can actually do some of these boss fights out of sequence if you find your way to them, which is quite cool. But I think when the game leans into its strength and is like, nah, mate, we are about boss fights that you will fight for 4 hours in a row.
Yeah.
That's where it finds its true identity, and that's where I think it is at its strongest. And I'm glad it kind of went in that direction, to be honest with you.
And I know you didn't engage with it too much, but I thought the story was phenomenal. Like, I think it's a really impressive story about rise and fall of empire and rebellion, and there's racism in there. Like, it's some pretty clever stuff. I was very impressed. And it's dark. There's some dark shit in there. Flashbacks, futurism, the balance between science and religion. Like, there's a lot in here that they go for that I think is very impressive. And a lot of that is represented in the bosses and their beliefs and what they're telling you about the world. It's not so, like, I would agree that like the bosses are just like the pinnacle, but I had to go as far as to say like the bosses and their meaning to the world and what they do, and how each one of the bosses is kind of responsible for like part of the empire. So the military or the farming, or I think one is like cloning or this dream state thing and this kind of thing. It's like,
yes, the dreamscape stuff was pretty wild, that whole area.
There's some really messed up stuff in there, and I absolutely love this game. I think that it's been completely lost in the abyss in the like Silksong chatter from this year, and another chatter about loads of other Metroidvanias, and I feel like it was just overshadowed so much last year. You're probably going to tell me it's like the most successful game on Steam or something.
Yeah, it's pretty damn successful. Don't worry, Bally. Nine Souls sold a lot of fucking copies.
Okay,
it
that's
did well.
good. In our kind of console focused podcast space, it didn't make quite as many waves as I would have hoped, for sure. For a world that loves Silksong so much, this game is awesome. I agree, it's got aspects that are a little lacking from a strictly Metroidvania perspective, but my god, bosses are becoming like a big passion, I think, of ours. So the more I play games like this, I'm like, wow, I'm loving that challenge. And I don't know, one day I'll cross into like the 3D boss space, you know, and I don't know, the Souls games and all this sort of crazy stuff. I don't know, but in terms of the 2D space, this is kind of like the absolute peak in terms of 2D boss fights. I think it's super special, and it's so bold to go for so many different types of parries, to layer them in one single boss fight, even very early on. Like, I just think it's absolutely amazing. I cannot recommend this highly.
I remember getting to that first boss fight and being like, oh, I'm in for a world of pain, aren't I? Like, I was like, this is going to hurt me a lot.
The first boss is like, you're going ding, 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 like multiple parries in quick succession, multiple phases of the fight. And then, it is brutal. You compare that to like the first boss of Silksong, and it's a joke. Like, it's just a completely different kind of style. Yeah,
totally. I think it's it's just very, very interesting as well, you know, talking about On Guard this episode and how it really forces you to learn the entire combat toolset. Nine Souls, that first boss is pretty much that. It's just like, okay, if you're going to get through this thing, you have to play the way that we want you to play. And if you don't, you're going to fucking die.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, we've told you about these parries. Now, you might not have had to use them just running around and killing regular enemies. Now you have to fucking do it, okay? You're gonna die if you don't. Lock the fuck in and do it. And it's great because I think you have to teach the player that, otherwise they're not gonna be able to. There's certainly, you know, as tough as Silksong is, I do think that there are ways in which the player can cheese certain things, right? There's boss strats for certain fights with the tool system and the way that works. It's like, you can overpower things. Nine Souls, there's no way to do that. You have to.
There's no cheesing, mate. There's no cheesing.
There's no cheesing. I don't think there is a way to cheese any boss in that game. You just have to get good. And I really respect that about it. I think it's just like, pulls no punches.
There's this, one of the parries is like it's a charged parry. So the enemy uses like a charged move, and then you're charging your parry to counter it. And the sound design and animation that goes into that counter is so incredible, especially on some of those late game bosses. It is
it's
stunning.
the best feeling one to pull off, because it requires anticipation and it requires you knowing, like, that's the thing that I love about it, is like you have to die at least 12 or 15 times just to learn what the moves are. Then when you've learned the moves, then you have to figure out how you're going to maneuver around them. And like there are sequences of flow in that game of like, right, and here comes the charge attack, let me hold down the parry, and then you respond to it and you knock them into a more stunned state, and you can do way more hits on them. And God, it just feels so fucking good. It's just it's so good.
There were boss fights near the end of the game where it might have taken me an hour, and I was like, that boss only took me an hour. What a result!
Right.
Like, I feel so chuffed. It only took me. And then there were others. There was the Dream State boss. She was. You did much better on her than me. I struggled so much on her final phase.
Well, because she was 3 phases technically, even though the first phase was like not really a phase because you can do it quite quickly, but like the level to which I was like, this is still going. Oh my God, it just it was too much.
Oh God, I got so close so many times.
Oh dude, it's the worst feeling in the world when you know you're that close to it. It's just like but like when you kill them as well, like just the way the screen goes, like the silhouetting of it. It's exceptionally good.
And then you always get like some big lord dump after the boss and stuff. I was very, very here for all that stuff. And I'd defeat a boss, and then I would go for like a lie down. Like, I've had my gaming for the day. Like I've achieved a mountain today, like defeating that one boss. So I'm gonna go lie down. Yeah,
it's just tremendous sense of achievement. It's funny actually, because Silksong in Act 3 there are 3 bosses that when you beat them it does the same thing as Nine Souls with like the outline and everything, and it just feels
awesome,
so good when you do that. It's very, very satisfying. So yeah, a tremendous game. Just one of the best I've played in a long, long time, and worthy to be number one. We should do this more often, Bally, is pick an old game and both play through it, because I think it's very fun when it comes together like that.
Yeah,
we're just like, oh my God, I'm stuck on this, and this fucking thing is so hard.
Well, it's one of those things that I think it was on both of our radars, and last year just got a bit busy, and that happens, and then we're like, right, let's both play this, and no, you're right, it's good. It's good.
Very, very satisfying. So there you go. That's it. That's our GOTY lists for 2025. Before we count them down and go back through them, Bally, I have a few honourable mentions here.
Okay.
One of them is Chance of Senar that didn't quite make it. A really cool game, language learning game where you're kind of going around the Citadel and just trying to like figure out what all these words mean by like using context clues and other things, and using one language to decode another. Very smart game, very, very cool. Enjoyed it a lot, and thought it was very well put together. I really liked Bayonetta Origins, Reason of the Lost Demon. That game. I think pacing-wise suffered. I think that's why it took me so long to get through it, is because it is a little bit languid in the way that you're just kind of like very slowly going through things. But really nice to see someone else trying the kind of brothers approach of like controlling characters with 2 different sticks and doing something quite cool with that. And the way that combat works is quite interesting. Has some very nice visual stuff going on, especially in the finale of that game. I enjoyed that a lot. Children of the Sun, a very cool game where you're kind of like sniping. Yeah, it's like you snipe and then you use that one bullet to like go through everybody in the level, and then it kind of gives you like an overview of like, shows you the map of where your bullet went. I think I got a little hung up on some of the later levels of like the finickiness of it, unfortunately. But I think the early stuff and just the concept in general is really cool and clever. And yeah, it was another one of those like indies I picked up in a sale at the end of last year, and the winter sales, and just blasted through in a January day before the holiday ended, which was very, very enjoyable. So yeah, Children of the Sun is great. And then Boomerang X, which I found very
surprised that's
very
not
kind
in
of
here.
like, it's just so intense. I think, it was one of those things that like my brain was just like going so intensely through it that it was hard to like I don't know. It's great, but it's a 2-hour game that feels like it's 6 hours long, because you're just like every encounter is just like adrenaline rush, and you are really so focused that it can maybe be to its detriment to some degree. I still really enjoyed it. It just didn't quite make it onto the list because there's so many good games I played that I enjoyed. I also played God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, which I just didn't really vibe with that much.
I'm shocked about that.
That's kind of nowhere close to this list, unfortunately. I just got really annoyed with it, really, because I'm like, well, I got to the fucking end. Just give me the thing. And there's like, no, you will go back. And it's like, oh, okay.
This is a story-driven game.
The story. We're going to not let you properly finish a roguelike. We're going to make you do it more times because you have to see the cutscenes. And yeah, I was a little bit annoying. I think it was good. I think because it focused more on the core combat of God of War, which I think is great, but is not really why I like those games. Like, I like them for the exploration and the puzzle solving as well as the combat. Like, the balance of those three elements is why God of War works for me, and the narrative and the cutscenes and the kind of high stakes storytelling of the gods and everything that you want to get to the next anticipation of like what's going to happen next in the story. And because this is a repeating loop, there's not that much interesting from a narrative perspective from my point of view anyway. So I think because it loses the exploration and it loses the puzzle solving, just being combat and just being like not that interesting narratively, it just wasn't what I'm looking for from a God of War experience, really. So that's didn't fully vibe with me, but respect it. I think it's cool that it came out and people liked it. So yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a few of mine. There's definitely a bunch more that I played that didn't make it, but yeah, Bally, are there any honourable mentions of games that you would have liked to get to this year that you're maybe trying to get to next year?
Let me have a look at my list. I've got all these things written down, you see. I'm just such a
Yeah,
nerd
what's your
for
priority for like next year? Is Inscription high on there to get to?
Yes,
next year?
let me just check my list. I've already got a 2026 list that I pasted all the games I didn't get to this year and locked it over there. Yeah, so games for next year that didn't come out next year, if that makes sense. Yeah, I've ordered them in like how long they take to beat. So yeah, Inscription's on there. It's 15.5 hours. Really want to get to that early on. I want to play, like I said, I want to play Latent Diabolical Box. That's the second game. I want to try maybe get to Phoenix Wright Justice for All, which is 20.5 hours. And then Danganronpa 2 is sitting at like 41.5 hours. So
I don't think Danganronpa 2 is that long. That seems way too long.
I always include the main plus extra from how long to beat.
Oh, okay. Right. Just because Bally time. Bally reading speed as well is to be accounted for with these games. So.
Yeah. In terms of games from this year that I want to get to next year, definitely Wheel World. Really intrigued by that game. And then I want to play, I've got on my Steam Deck, 1,000 Times Resist.
Yes.
Obviously going about that, so I need to get to that. Dude. That's about 12.5 hours. Another 12.5 hours game, Plague Tale Innocence. I've got that, want to get there. Yeah, and then the game I've had on this list for ages and not got around to, but I just need a little bit of a Metroidvania 2D platforming break, is The Messenger. I really want to play The Messenger.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's such a big Sea of Stars fan, that makes a lot of sense to eventually go back to it.
Exactly. That's 14.5. And yeah, in terms of like other games, maybe like Mario RPG, we could get back into that.
Right, yes, we need to find a time to do that.
We'd love to do that. And then I've also got like Boomerang X, Katamari, Damacy Reroll. Not the modern remake, it was like a remaster from few years ago, but I've got that waiting for me on Switch. Those are just a couple of short ones that I'll play at some point. Also nice. In the year of twos, maybe get to Spyro Ripto's Rage. That's like the second.
Oh yeah, Spyro 2.
Yeah, those are kind of my list of games. Those are all games I own that are ready to go that I just need to get around to playing next year. Yeah, be good.
Nice, cool. Well, let's recap our list then, Bally, for the fine folks at home listening. So do you want to go ahead and count down your 10 to 1?
My number 10 was Little Gator Game. My number 9 was Sheepy, A Short Adventure. Number 8, Lodal Note. Number 7, Lego Builder's Journey. Number 6, Loco Roco. Number 5, On Guard. Number 4, Gumbrella. Number 3, Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Number 2, Dredge. Number 1, Nine Souls.
And mine at number 10, Final Fantasy II, the Dawn of Souls version from GBA. Kirby Triple Deluxe at number 9. At number 8, The Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. At number 7, Tales of Kenzera Zao. Number 6, Lodal Naught. Number 5, Splatoon 3 Side Order. Number 4, Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals. Number 3, Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. Number 2, The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky First Chapter. And number 1, Nine Souls as well.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Is there a game from the last 2 years that we could both play and has a shot at the top slot for both of us?
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to do some research on that.
I've got one, but we definitely don't have time to play it.
Okay, what is it?
Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah.
I'm not playing that next year, but I think that has the juice potentially.
We've got to play Baldur's Gate 3 at some point. I think we could also try and play it together at some point. Maybe that would be a good thing to do.
Maybe a Steam machine's the right platform to do that on. We'll see.
I think so. I think that would be a great thing to try. Do some co-op Baldur's Gate 3.
Are there any other games that are less than 1 million hours long that we think might?
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe you at home tell us. That's your assignment. Give us some ideas of some older games from the last couple of years that we missed that we should really play and that no one has told us to yet. So yeah, I think that's a good thing for everybody to message us about. But yeah, I think that's going to do us for this episode of the show. Thanks, of course, everybody for listening, and for entertaining this fun tradition that we have, which I always very much enjoy.
Love it. Love it.
Like I said, I'll get these lists up by January once the final game of the year list has been confirmed and everything, and then we'll put it out there, and you can reference it. You can also see other years and what fun stats. So do you know another fun stat about 2016, Bally? We both had the same number 3 game in 2016. Do you remember what it was? Sounds like a no to me.
I can't remember.
That is, it was Metroid Zero Mission was our number 3.
Nice.
Both of us had the same number 3 that year.
You hadn't. That was weird that you hadn't played it at that point. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I think I had tried it on an emulator like years before, but had like played a bit of it, but had never finished it and played all the way through it properly.
Right.
I think was the.
Right.
But it came to Wii U Virtual Console on GBA, which is why I think we both played it there. I'm pretty sure is what happened with Zero Mission. But yeah, it's interesting going back and looking. I'm like, is there like a genre thing with my number 1 every year? Like, what's the difference? Like, the first 3 years of the show, it's RPG. It's Xenoblade, Persona 4, Earthbound. And then it's Overwatch for like first-person shooters, Valkyria Chronicles, which I guess is still RPG, but strategy RPG. And then we get into more action stuff, Hyper Light Drifter, Dead Cells, Judgment. Beat Saber is interesting because it's rhythm. And then 999 visual novel, and then Neon White. I don't even know how you categorize Neon White, like first person fucking parkour platformer, really. So yeah, it's very, very interesting to see like the through line of like what is number 1. Is there any patterns there as we kind of go through?
Now you've got like a kind of combat focused Metroidvania.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are mine? I need to have a look. Are there any trends?
Yours are you got Metro Prime, then you got Guacamelee. So you're more diverse. You're Metro Prime, Guacamelee, Earthbound, Stardew Valley, Okami, Horizon, Last of Us, Shadow of the Colossus, Portal, Federation Force. You're very diverse, I would say, in your number.
Yeah, okay,
ones,
but like look at that from like Horizon onwards. It's PlayStation, PlayStation.
It's 3 Sony games in a row, and then Portal.
Look how grey 2021 is. It's Shadow of the Colossus, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, Uncharted 4. The Last Guardian, Batman Arkham Asylum. It's like
your top 4, 2 of them being Ueda games and 2 of them being Uncharted is like maybe the most boring list of all time. But hey, that represented that year.
But then I've got Portal. 2023 is the year that I failed horrendously to play enough games.
Look, don't call any failure with Federation Force. That is a number 1 in any good year, all right?
And then I'm back on the RPG beat. Last year was my Sea of Stars was my GOTYTDACOTY.
Yeah, so yeah, very interesting going back through the archives and seeing how our tastes have changed, and maybe not at all either. So yeah, good stuff. Great. Well, that is going to do us. You can obviously find the show in various places. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us downloaded on YouTube as well if you want to go there, and please do so. You can also support the show by going to patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, where Bally would like to thank some of our supporters.
Yes, thank you to our $10 tier plus patrons. They are Sullivan C, Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK Alan, Orange Thunder, Nintendo Man, Turtle, and Ali T. And yeah, as Nbz mentioned, we are going to be doing our top 5, top 10. We've not decided yet. Non-Nintendo games of 2025. It's going to be a joint list, and that'll be early in December.
Yeah, absolutely. So look out for that. You can obviously find us on the internet in various places. I am at NBZ on Blue Sky. Where can they find you, Bally?
I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91 on Blue Sky.
Great. And you can also find the podcast, Blue Sky, on there as well, at TNL Podcast. And that's where you should go to find the Google form that I'll put out there for voting for GOTYTDACOTY, as well as Game of the Year proper. And we'll pop that in Discord and on the socials. And hopefully I'll put it in the show notes of this episode as well. So I'll get that ready in time, and you can just go there and click it directly from this podcast that you're currently listening to. That'll be great. And yeah, please feel free to fill those in, and we'll go over the results in the last show of the year, as I mentioned. And yeah, that'll be great.
Got a question.
Yes.
When's the Metroid Prime 4 embargo?
It's a great question. I think maybe
we're on Saturday, the 29th of November currently, and it comes out on December the 4th.
December 4th. I think the day before. Nintendo tends to do day before embargo usually.
Okay.
So I think on Wednesday we'll get the reviews. Review score predictions, Bally. What's the Metacritic? What's the Open Critic for Prime 4?
What was Prime 3 like?
Ooh, that's a great question.
80s?
I think probably still over 90, because that was an era
90.
where you're still getting 90 even for Prime 3 probably.
I'm going to go 86.
Yeah, I think the NPC of it all is going to be the factor there with a lot of people, right? We don't know how that's going to shake out with like Miles McKenzie and his crew of Federation troopers. We'll see, I'm sure. I don't know. I feel like the vibes are not great going into it, so no. I'm thinking that makes a bit more sense, but I don't want it to be. I want it to be like a 92. You know, I think Metroid Prime deserves that after so many years to come back with a slam dunk, and I hope it is. I can't
remember who said it, but someone said it's the balance between the people who are comparing this directly to Metroid Prime 1 versus the people who are comparing it directly to Prime 3, where Prime 3 is a much more linear, chatty game, has all the cadets and all this other bollocks, and it's kind of following in that line a bit more than arguably Prime 1, at least from what the demos have shown.
I think the problem is most people have not played Metro Prime 3, right? So us included.
Including us, me barring the 5 hours at the start. But have you bought it yet? I think I bought it on Amazon for like 50 quid. I thought it was a bargain.
So I'm in a weird position with it where I'm going to be in Spain when it comes out. So
gonna go digital,
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I was looking at the vouchers and maybe do it through vouchers potentially. But
also my Amazon order, it's coming like a day after launch, which also happened with Ghost of Yoti. So I think they're like a little bit delayed now. I don't know why. But
yeah.
I can hold out a day now.
It's weird. Yeah, you can hold out. It's fine. I'm just kind of like very interested to see what happens with it.
What's your score prediction? What did I say? 86. You're going.
Yeah, I'm going to dream big. I'm going to say 92. I'm going
to say 92. Yeah. We're talking. That's GOTY contender right there. If we can get that.
Yeah. We'll see. I have high hopes that it'll be unique, but hopefully still retain that kind of Metro Prime core identity, and keep that going. So we'll see. But yeah, I am hopefully going to get a good enough amount of time to play it, because I'll be off on holiday from the 10th of December. So yeah, give me a few days to just like dive into it before we record our episode, which will be the next episode of this podcast. And yes, please do write in with your emails about Metroid Prime 4, Bally, which they can send to where?
Please email ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com.
Yep. So get those in ahead of next episode, and we'll just be talking about Prime 4 the whole time, basically. That'll be a good deep dive, as we have done a few times this year so far for significant game releases, which I think is a good format, and gets a lot of interest. So I think that is going to do us for this episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Until next time, we'll be back at you with another episode with more podcasting, more video games, and more Nintendo. Until then, bye bye.